them already.
I'm ready.
You look good.
Not as, I look better than I did 3 minutes ago.
Steve, do we have Michael, Commissioner Ma online?
I do not see Commissioner Ma yet.
Sean, did you get any communication from him?
I think I see MM down below.
No, I did not receive any communication.
It looks like he's here.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
There he is.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start since it is a little bit past 7. I want to welcome you all to Design Review Commission meeting for Wednesday, February 17th. We'll go ahead and establish a quorum. So if you just say here, Commissioner Sam?
Here.
Frank?
Here.
Jude?
Here.
Michael?
Here.
And Dave. So we have all 5 commissioners here tonight. Do we have any public comments for items that are not on our evening's agenda? I hear none.
Let's just make sure. I know there's one person that is called in. Maybe we might want to unmute everybody. Give me one sec.
Okay.
Just to make sure. I'm not finding my button to do that.
Yeah, I don't think there's an unmute button. I did not find. We can ask to unmute, but we can't. We can mute, but we cannot mass unmute. If we can, so is there a member of the public who would like to provide any comments for an item that's not on the agenda tonight?
I think you were talking about me. I'm one of the callers. I'm at 34 Paso Robles, and if you were talking about 48 Paso Robles, I wanted to make a comment, and I'm happy to wait till the appropriate time. I don't know the process.
Okay. Yeah, your phone number is 0297. So we'll mute you until that item. So we can just
Terrific.
be
Thank
able
you.
to.
Okay, so Steve, it appears that there are no comments for public comments or items on the agenda. So we'll go ahead and go to the consent calendar. On the Design Review Commission minutes from last meeting, do I have a motion on those or any comments? Oh my God, she can't block Mark.
Are we not on mute?
I'll move to accept.
So we have a motion to accept the meetings of the 2nd. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Let's get a vote. Sam?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Jude?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And David? So it's aye as well. So the minutes have been approved. Now we'll go into discussion. Our first property is item number 2, SC 21-005, property located at 875 Highland Circle. Staff, could you give us a report on that property, please?
Hi, good evening. My name is Naz Healy, and I'm one of the associate planners. I will be presenting item 2. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you'd bear with me for 1 moment.
They're doing some other property now, and I have it here on voice, but that's not good enough, so I'm going to play around. Yeah.
Hi there. If you could, whoever's talking, if you could go ahead and mute your microphone. Thank you. Okay, so item 2 is a design review application for 875 Highland Circle, where a 308 square foot one-story addition, exterior modifications, and second-story window changes are proposed. The subject property is located on an interior lot on Highland Circle between Andover Way and Lockhaven Drive. So here we have a street view image of the subject home and the surrounding homes. This portion of Highland Circle primarily consists of ranch homes that are similar in size, footprint, and building scale. And like the subject home, many of the surrounding homes consist of 2 levels built into the sloped street. So you can see a couple examples here, similar to the subject home. And from this map here, this is the direction of the downward slope. So here we have the proposed site plan with the addition area shown here in orange. The street is here, and the front of the home here. So this is the rear and the side. So from this 3D view from the rear yard, and then the west and rear elevations, these show the 1-story addition is proposed where the existing structure is also 1 story. The new addition incorporates plate heights at 8 feet to 9 foot 3 inches, maintains the existing roof type and pitch, and incorporates materials consistent with the existing home. Other proposed exterior changes include removal of the front window trim and shutters, which you could see here on the existing front elevation. It would include replacement of the existing front windows, as well as there's a brick veneer at the front here that would be replaced with stucco. There would be a new front entry column, guardrail, and entry door with a side light, and then a new garage door. So these images depict the proposed 2nd-story window changes. Here in orange at the rear facade, these 2 windows would be new, where there are no windows currently, and that is here on the site plan, shown with this orange line. And then the blue windows are ones that are expanded or relocated on the east and front facade. So we can see here from the front of the home, and then this is the side, and that corresponds with this section here of the building. So the staff report discusses some concerns with the compatibility of the new corner floor to ceiling windows and how they relate to the design and character of the existing home. There may be some opportunity for changes that would result in a more composed facade, but staff will defer to the commissioners on that. In addition, the new window area may create some privacy impacts for the downslope neighbor to the east. So the neighbor that would be located here on this side. So to address that, a recommended condition of approval requires the planting of screen trees along the east property line, which would be in this approximate area shown in green on the site plan. So with that, staff recommends that the Design Review Commission approve the application subject to the findings and conditions contained in the report. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you so much. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff?
None.
Frank, Sam, Jude?
None for Sam.
Frank's good.
Thank
I
you.
don't have any question.
Yeah, I just had one question involving, did we have any correspondence or whatever with the neighbor on the downhill side from 877 Highland Circle? Was there any, and maybe the applicant can discuss that further, but it relates to the trees or proposed landscaping on that left-hand wall versus, you know, a new fence or whatnot. So are you aware of anything like that?
I did not receive any correspondence from that neighbor. The applicant did go and speak with the surrounding neighbors and provided signatures, including the downslope neighbor that they didn't oppose the project.
Okay.
But I believe the applicant is here, and then possibly the property owners, and maybe they can elaborate a bit more on that conversation.
All right, thank you. Why don't we go ahead and go to the applicant and or their architect if they have a presentation.
Here I am, Bahi Raisi. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you for your time. My name is Bahi Raisi. I am the architect for the subject property. My clients, Naresh and Shalini, are also here, and they'll be happy to say anything if there's a question for them. As Naz put it, this project is pretty straightforward. It's an original 1970s split level house on a sloping lot. You know, the work that we're doing is very modest. It's 308 square foot addition to the east side, the west side, and the remodel is for the east side, where the house is on the second floor, where the kitchen is currently. The reason we're here is because of a few windows we're trying to change for that remodel. The clients wanted a modernized kitchen. They wanted to take advantage of the views. There's some valley views when you stand in the corner there. And, you know, we felt like having larger windows, you know, would not impact any neighbors, as it is mostly opening towards the street, and that the you know, ones that are in the family room, the two windows that we punch on either side of the fireplace, those are facing the backyard, and there are plenty of trees to buffer the views. My clients went in and you know, went around the neighborhood and talked to as many neighbors as they could. And if you look at the report, you'll see that there are quite a few signatures that they gathered. They did talk to the neighbor on 877, and there is a signature. You know, they reviewed the plans and supported the application. And if you look on the second page, I think, of the attachment, you'll see that signature. They also, there was a concern that Naz brought up about 873 Highland, which is the neighbor right next door. And that neighbor is actually, the homeowner lives in China, but has a rep here in town who shared the prints with them, the PDFs with them. They reviewed everything, and they asked him to sign an approval, you know, on the letter for them. So that is also included in the list of signatures. They had no objections. All the other neighbors had no objections. In fact, there was one that wanted to come to this meeting. I'm not sure if he's here or not, but doesn't seem like there's any concerns. In terms of the style and the you know, overall look of the house, we are definitely modernizing the house. We are taking all the windows out, replacing them with brand new dark colored, you know, dark anodized, most likely fiberglass windows. We are updating all the exterior finishes with very high level, high quality finishes, brand new doors, garage door, front door, So the house will definitely have a much, more modern, more updated look. And we feel like the same language is going to be carried across all around the building. So we don't feel like it's going to be too foreign to have those corner windows there. And I'm pretty confident it's going to add value to the neighborhood as the house is outdated currently. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Does your client wish to speak on their own behalf in regards to the project, or?
Unless, if you have any questions, they're here. They'll be happy
Okay.
to, but if you don't, I'm happy.
You're good to go.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the architect or the owners?
I have a question. And
Go ahead.
it actually has to do with the condition of approval about screening on the eastern property line, which is the A side. Just from my observation, it looks like that's all hardscape on that side of the property. So I'm kind of questioning whether that condition should be executed, if that's the intent of staff to screen on that side. I don't think that's possible.
You know, my clients seem to be okay with that condition, although it is going to be, at some cost, they have to rip out the hardscape. But this having these windows delayed the project by at least 2 to 3 months already. So it is what it is. They really like to be able to enjoy those views. So if that's what is required, I think they'll be happy to go ahead with it.
Great. Anyone else have any other questions for the applicant?
No questions here.
I don't have any question.
Frank?
No questions at this point.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go back to my original question for the applicant. The eastern side, in addition to what Jude had made some comments on, the house, it seems like a bedroom wing and it seems pretty low down. Did you have any conversation with the Ghaffari family in regards to the screening? My concern is if you put 15-foot trees in that go up a little bit higher, what looks like to be a relatively dark space on their side of the fence already might be really dark. And so I don't know if you had a conversation with them to say, hey, here's option one, option two. Option one is leave it as it is, maybe repair the fence. Option two is do what staff has recommended and put, landscaping, trees, etc., higher up, but that may provide less light into your house.
And the condition didn't come until just this last week to us. So we got those signatures a couple of weeks before that. So I don't think we have.
No, but my question relates to, was there any discussion in regards to that, the light versus the privacy going into their house?
Not that I know, there wasn't any discussion. I think we're really overlooking the roof over there. So there's not a lot of privacy concern for them. And that discussion wasn't part of the conversation at the time. So they have no concern. So I guess, ideally we wouldn't want to change anything if they're happy with what's there, right?
Yeah, so I'll add to that. Since it was more recent, we haven't had a conversation about the screening. But when we showed them the plans and everything, they had no concerns at all with as is.
This is Naresh. He's the homeowner.
Correct. Okay. Great, thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and close off the question and answer for staff, or from commissioners to the applicant, and open it up for public comment if we have any. Steve, do we have any public comment?
I'll just say, if anybody has a public comment, if you can raise your hand or do any other gesture to keep this organized. I will also unmute a couple people that are just on the phone to make sure we're covering all of our bases. So does anybody have any public comments for this project? I don't see any hands raised and I don't hear anybody speaking up, so I don't see any public comments.
Okay, well, we'll close public comment since there wasn't any and open it up for discussion amongst the commission. Who would like to start? Michael, can I ask you to start?
Sure. I'll start. Looks to me it's a very straightforward project. The small addition is on the west side, and it's a small addition, and that's almost like that looks like on the grade, almost on the grade. So it looks like a one story. There's no intrusion of privacy or any concern about the size. And then the remodel at the front corner and on the east side, it's mostly just window and enlarge the window a little bit at the current position locations. So overall, I'm in favor of the project.
Great, thank you. Frank, any additional comments?
I would just say when I look through the plans, it's almost a one-story building, really. So I think it's fine. I think the updated window on the corner, it doesn't seem like it bothers anyone, and if the owners will enjoy it, I think that's great. Again, it's a pretty simple project, so I'm good and in favor of it.
Great. Sam?
Yeah, I'm also in favor of the project. I like that they moved out to their neighbors and got positive feedback. That we like to see that on these projects. So yes, I'm in favor.
Jude, any additional comments?
Not really, other than I just find the one condition to provide screening on that east side to be unnecessary, given that it's virtually impossible for them to install it, and there's already screening on the opposite side of the fence. So to me, first of all, I'm in favor of the project as designed, and the only thing is I would drop the one condition about the screening.
Great, thank you. I also would recommend dropping the one condition in regard to the screening, because I think as the property is right now, that area of the neighbors isn't all that private. And I don't think the window adds a additional level of privacy or lack of privacy that really affects the property. I would be more concerned to have taller trees that would drop cost the applicant a lot to put those in, but I think they would be counterproductive to what they're trying to achieve. So my recommendation also would be to not have the screening. Maybe you can put some potted plants or something up there that provides a little or work on repairing the fence or putting a lattice or whatnot. But I think that could be worked out between the two neighbors. So I don't see the additional need for that condition. That said, do I have a motion?
I'll move that to approve item number SC21-0055 for 875 Highland Circle by accepting all the condition and finding except condition number 3 for the screening tree to be removed.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and do a vote on it. We'll go ahead and start with Commissioner Ma.
Aye.
Commissioner Harding,
Aye.
Commissioner Bishop,
Aye.
Commissioner Carrick,
Aye.
and Commissioner Blockus, aye as well. So the SC 21-0055 is approved with the one amendment of taking out condition number 3. Congratulations. Let's
Thank
go
you.
ahead and move on to item number 3, which is SC 20-007 at 48 Paso Robles Avenue. Do we have a report, Sean?
Yes. Good evening, Chair Blockus and Commissioners. This is a design review application for a second-story addition to an existing one-story house. The project proposes 715 square feet at the second story. This is a proposed elevation of the front of the house, which is within your packet. And no significant alterations have occurred at the first story. Existing elevations are provided in the packet. The subject property is considered to be a narrow lot in a diverse character neighborhood. As a result, it does have reduced setbacks. The homes in the neighborhood are primarily one-story, but there are two-story homes in the neighborhood, and they are mostly of a moderate to lower scale. This provides drawings of the primary residence. At the top of the screen is the original residence with the one-story structure, and the adjacent two-story house on the left and one-story to the right. And then the second diagram has the proposed project. The applicant will discuss in the middle the variation that's occurred over time. Staff has been working with the applicant to make revisions to the overall project to reduce its overall scale by reducing the overall height of the structure, and there's been 3 iterations of this project design. The existing house is non-conforming due to having a 4-foot 8-inch left interior side setback, where a 5-foot setback is required in the R110 district. Since the project is not eliminating more than 50% of the floor area, the non-conforming setback can be maintained. As provided in your packet, they are showing within the plan set that at the very most 715 square feet of the first story roof form will be modified, which is below the 50% threshold. This provides the second story floor plan, which the applicant is proposing to add a master bedroom with a master bathroom, closet, stairwell, and bedroom number 2 and bathroom number 2. This is also the roof plan, which they're proposing a simple gable form that will extend from the front to the back of the structure. The proposed 2-story addition maintains the traditional style that uses design elements materials that are compatible with the overall design, which includes complementing the design with the gable roof forms at the second story, articulated massing to try to reduce the overall bulk of mass along the elevations, and maintaining a low pitch roof form with high quality materials. The height of the addition, overall height of the structure is 24 feet 1 inch, which is in scale with homes in the surrounding neighborhood. The applicant is proposing an 8-foot tall plate height at the second story, which is consistent with the lower scale houses within the neighborhood. In staff's initial review, we did raise concerns regarding the stairwell element along the right elevation, or the east elevation. We were concerned with the overall integration and composition of that stairwell feature. It has gone through a series of iterations to reduce its overall height and mass. The proposal does extend the existing roof form to visually break up the massing on the side of the structure, and the small scale nature of the stairwell and improved integration, staff believes, does improve its overall bulk and mass and integration into the structure with consistent window styles as found on the structure itself. On the left side of the second story, the windows at the second story are proposed at 4 foot 8 inches, As a design, staff does believe that the window sill heights would diminish potential privacy impacts to neighbors from the left second story windows. And on the right second story, there are 2 windows proposed. They are also proposed with 4-foot 8-inch sill heights. Staff does not believe they will contribute to significant privacy impacts. In regards to the stairwell windows, there are 2 2-foot 8-inch sill windows, which potentially could create privacy issues. The applicant is proposing significant evergreen screening along the right side property line, which staff believes will reduce the overall privacy impacts to less than significant level along the right property line. Along the rear elevation, there is a set of windows, a large oversized windows along the rear of the site. The windows do propose a right interior setback of 15.2 feet and a left setback of 26 feet. The overall setback to the rear property line is 61.5 feet. Proposed screening, there is existing a proposed screening that is part of the packet, and staff does believe it reduces the overall impact of privacy to a less than significant level. There are the screening trees are conveyed in this design packet, including the landscape plan on L1.1. There are 16 trees that are on the property. The applicant is proposing to remove none of the trees and is proposing to retain them. That is shown on sheet AS 1.1. A landscape plan is also proposed, and a variety of shrubs and ground cover and evergreen screening trees are proposed for the site. Staff does believe that the landscape plan does comply with the city's landscape regulations and street tree guidelines. Materials board is provided on sheet A 9.1. And it conveys all of the materials for the proposed addition and modification to the structure. Staff does recommend approval of the project, and this concludes staff's presentation unless there are any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sean. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
None.
Anyone else?
I got a
Go
question.
ahead, Jude.
And Sean, maybe this is a question for the applicant, but were there, on the stair bump out there, were there any options to have eliminate the window facing the side property line and maybe have side windows that face the street in the rear yard, in conjunction with maybe raising the element a little taller for them to get some significant windows facing forward and backwards versus toward the side?
If there was an iteration, staff did not see the iteration of the no window or front and rear facing windows. The applicant potentially could have considered those iterations, and they can maybe discuss that and whether that was a consideration by them. She's shaking her head that I believe she did. So she's available to answer that question after presentation.
Quick, well, I'm back to you on that. Was the height of the element on the side the concern, or was it more the window?
It was both the combination of the size of the element and the scale of the element and the roof form of the element. Staff was concerned that it looked like an attachment to the side of the home. It wasn't well integrated into the overall design. And so the applicant worked with the homeowners to develop a series of proposals. The second one staff wasn't fully supportive of, but we did believe this was an improvement from the original proposal that we had for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and close that then. We have the applicant and or the architect, if you'd like to make some comments in regards to the project.
Hi, Kendra Rosenberg here. First of all, Sean, thank you very much for the very thorough presentation. Thank you, commissioners, for your time this evening. To jump right in and answer that first question about the stairwell, whether the windows were proposed on the sides of it. We had entertained that idea. However, the stairwell doesn't actually protrude very far out beyond the side of the house. So the windows we would have been looking at would have been 1 foot, very narrow windows, which is a possibility to get some light in there. We also considered no windows at all and a skylight. Our feeling on it was that because it's sort of a pass-through area, it's not a room looking at the neighbor, because it really is a staircase, no one will be lingering there. We felt that the windows were useful for getting light and air in, as opposed to a skylight that might be fixed, something like that. And we didn't feel it was a super concern of a privacy to that neighbor. Additionally, on that front, we did reach out to that neighbor with our presentations along the way, and they expressed that their opinion was that the windows on that side of the house would be fine. So that's sort of where we ended up.
Any other point of presentation or just answering the one question?
Sorry, yeah, I wanted to see if there was any follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Happy to continue on. So
Great, thank you.
if I can share my screen very quickly, I'm not sure if I'm able to do that. Looks like it's not allowing that, so that's okay. But going back to the presentation that Sean had provided, we had the three renderings showing the evolution of this stairwell design. The original design actually brought it all the way up to the top roof and just had a shed moving off the side. At that point, it ended up looking quite a bit like a chimney attached onto the side of the house, which Plan Commission felt was a little bit imposing. So that one right there all the way on the left. Thank you, Sean, appreciate that. And you can see it is very tall, and it actually is quite narrow sticking out from the side of the house. So even in that condition, we are technically respecting all the daylight planes and all of the setbacks. However, it was more of an aesthetic concern that it was very tall, unnecessarily so for the space that was needed. So then we went on to the second revision where we dropped it down quite a bit. That still was not quite what we were looking for, and it still was a bit taller than maybe it needed to be. So we brought it down to sort of what we would call the bare minimum in height to make that a usable space. And in addition, at that time, we also dropped the roof plates down and the pitch to make the whole building feel more in conformance and more in scale. Additionally, again, we have reached out to this side neighbor here on the left side where you can see their photos in the bottom, and they do have sort of a tall plate in their front portion of the house. This stairwell would be much farther back on the site than theirs, and it would be about the same height, very similar in height to that tall plate height. So we really felt that it was in reasonable conformance with what the neighbors had already. Additionally, we have made attempts to make sure that the side windows are as small as possible. We've put them only in places that we felt that they were necessary for venting or light. We are utilizing those side windows only for venting and light, and keeping the main bulk of the windows on the front and the back of the house. We are happy to provide screening along the sides for privacy of the neighbors and for my client. Both parties involved, I believe, would really prefer to have their privacy, and both are in favor of more privacy, the better. And additionally, we just would really like to see this house be built for this client so that they can, they actually just had a baby not too long ago. So they're having a growing family, and the second story is going to be a much needed aspect of their lives.
Great. Does the applicant themselves wish to speak?
And they are here this evening. I believe they would like to jump on and just say a few things.
Great.
Hi there. Yeah, we look forward to raising our daughter here and making this our forever home, as Kendra alluded to. And with our growing family, we decided to pursue a second-story addition and to provide us with more living space. So we appreciate you considering our project, and thank you very much for your time.
I'd also like to add in, we do have several letters in favor of the project from neighbors, and I believe that some of them have been emailed in on record to Sean.
Great, thank you. I was muted while I was speaking, so no one heard anything. Okay, staff or commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant?
None.
I have some question.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Ma.
Okay, yeah, just some detailed question for the applicants. Okay, I'll just start with the in a random order. The landscaping, I noticed that there are some proposed trees and plants, but I don't see any tree sizes. So I hope you can clarify that one. especially on the for the privacy screening. And also, can you provide us or at least describe the window detail? Somehow I noticed that on the front elevation, there are at least on the AN 1.2, the street elevation, that some window that the casing or the trim around the window are thicker than others. And then louvers, the window louvers, I would like to know what type of louver or what kind of material. No, I'm talking about the louver on the front elevation.
The shutters on the sides of the windows?
Yeah, both. Shutter is my next question. The louver above the window on the second floor. Some area noted to be hardy board. Some area are noted as louver. And then the next one is a shutter, material. The last couple question is the plate height. Some on the AN 1.2 on the street elevation, neighborhood elevation, as you described, the plate height are A0, but on the architectural elevation and section, the plate height are A4 for the ground floor. I know this is very minor, but I just want to make sure that it's all well coordinated and thought out. The roof pitch is, I'm just out of curiosity, the roof pitch is indicated as 4.7. I'm just wondering where it's coming from. Why not 4 or 4.5? Okay,
Yeah,
that's all my question.
Great questions. I'm going to try and make sure I got them all written down. So I'll try and go one by one. I'll start in reverse order. The roof pitch we actually had following that daylight plane originally, but we were requested to bring it back into conformance with the existing roof pitch. So that lower floor, first floor roof pitch is currently at 4.7 and 12. Not sure how it ended up there. That's how it's always been. We did not change it. So we're just following that roof pitch to make sure there's consistency between the upper floor and the lower floor. So that's that 4.7 number. For the louvers, so what we have at the very top is those louvers are really to get venting into that attic space. They can be built in a variety of different ways. We often do leave it up to the general contractor, but they usually do it out of some combination of wood or hardy board siding cut into strips, and they allow that venting behind it with a screen behind it. I'm happy to detail that out if that's necessary, but it's just a gable vent as opposed to doing something like a ridge vent or some of those Vulcan vents that look like eyebrows on the side of the house. In this particular aesthetic of house, we felt it was the most compatible and attractive, but really it is for attic venting. Additionally, the shutters on the sides, those again are something that we haven't sourced yet. We're looking to do some type of reclaimed wood accent. We work with the general contractor when we get a little farther along in the project to figure out exactly where they'll come from and exactly what the wood will be. As a reclaimed wood is what we're targeting. They are kind of alive, so we have to sort of pick them out a little more specifically than something like a hardy board product that we can just buy off the shelf. But we're happy to run those by planning review and make sure they're compatible when the time does come for those specifically. We also have your landscape plan. So the landscape plan on AL 1.1, the primary trees that we're locating for privacy are along that western facade. The darker green trees that are a little bit larger in scale are an Irish yew, and they typically grow 5 to 8 feet in height. So we do have that noted on AL 1.1. Those ones being in a narrow space and right between this house and the neighbor's house, we wanted to keep a little lower. We did also accommodate the privacy concerns by making those upper windows as small as possible. For the rear portion of the backyard, we have the American pillar, which does grow taller, grows 23 feet in height. And that's so that those upstairs bedroom windows, which are much larger, would have that angled privacy to the neighbor's backyard. So really taking into account what we're going to see from which windows. Did that answer all of your questions? Did I hit them all?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. All right, thank you.
Any follow-ups?
Commissioners, any further questions for the applicant?
None.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close that. Sean or Steve, is there any public comment on this project that you're aware of?
Staff would like to know, we did receive 2 letters. They were routed to the commissioners. And I believe we do have one member of the public who previously acknowledged that they wanted to speak. If that member of the public would like to speak, please unmute yourself and provide your name if you would like to provide your name. That is only optional.
And you have 3
Sure.
minutes.
Can you hear me? My name is Stephen Daniels. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my wife and I live at Stephen Daniels. We live at 34 Paso Robles. It's 2 doors down. We've lived in the neighborhood since 1987. It's a quirky neighborhood. Our house was built in the 40s. A lot were in the 30s and 40s. So there's every kind of oddball placement setback that would be non-conforming today, but it adds to the variability and the variety of the nature of the neighborhood. So people, welcome it. We think the design's beautiful, and we think it's remarkable how it's maintained the character of the home before the present buyers bought it. We think the character of the home has been maintained, and by doing it with the second floor, I think that's remarkable. We think that privacy has also been maintained by the window placement. If you look at the windows and look at the neighbors, my gosh, I think they've done a terrific job on maintaining privacy. The one thing that many of our streets homes in the past were very small, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. We have seen, over the years as these improvements and additions come in, oh my gosh, it just makes the homes more family friendly and brings in kids and brings in more variety to the neighborhood. And for us being we're now in the old crowd in the 60s and 70s. I mean, with these additions, just brings a new vitality to the neighborhood, and we strongly endorse it. We think it's a beautiful design. We would just welcome the approval and the addition, and we just think it's a real plus to the street.
Great, thank you. John, anyone else?
Is there any other member of the public that would like to speak? I had no other individuals that have acknowledged that they wanted to speak. Is there anyone else? And if so, please unmute yourself.
Let me run down the list real quick to see if there's any other callers to unmute. I've muted all the rest of the callers. If there's anybody that wants to speak on this, please. It looks like I see a hand, Harold and Liz Davis. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Are they muted?
They're unmuted. There's a Harold and Liz Davis. Your hand is raised. Do you want to speak on this item?
They just muted themselves.
Yeah, maybe.
Now they're unmuted.
Maybe they're having some trouble.
Yeah, Harold and Liz, do you have any comments?
We're not hearing them, I guess. We'll give them another minute. If there's anybody else that wants to make a public comment on this item, please unmute yourself, raise your hand, or other gesture. I don't see anybody else. Unfortunately, we're not hearing from Harold and Liz Davis. So that's unfortunate.
So there is in the chat, they're just advising that we are just really excited for our son and daughter-in-law. So I don't know if they're
okay,
the homeowner's parents, but that's who is.
Yep,
the
homeowners'
part is-
parents expressing
okay.
extra support. It's wonderful. They live nearby and they're really excited to have their family so close.
Okay, great. Thank you. So go ahead and close public comment and open it up for commissioner discussion. Who would like to begin on this one?
Hello, David.
Okay, Commissioner Carrot.
So first of all, I've been on this commission a long time now, and I'm always excited to go through this neighborhood because it really truly is. I think the neighbor described it as eclectic, fun, quirky, and it truly is. And there's some wonderful homes evolving in that neighborhood. So I'm very happy to see this one change, and I think it's very smartly done, especially as a remodel. So I commend the architect and the package. My only comment gets back to that stair element. I actually differ. I think that element should be bigger, and I think the window should go to the sides. There is enough room to do some 2-foot wide windows, and if the element raises in height, then one, you can get some smaller, higher windows that still get light but maintain privacy towards the side. And people neglect the notion of light. Light is going to occur, and it's going to be a beacon shining directly into the neighbor's side yard. So I would prefer something to the side, front and back, with the element raised up. And that way, privacy is respected. There's no light pollution to the neighbor. And also, the occupant of the house is going to feel comfortable walking down the stairs, because right now, the plate height is pretty minimal on that landing. So I don't know if anybody's ever descended down when something's smaller than it should be. It'll feel awkward on a daily basis going up and down that staircase. So I would prefer to see more latitude in that element. Regardless, I'm in favor of the project. I just would want to take give the architect some second chance on that element.
Great, thank you, Jude. Michael, do you have any comments?
Yes. First, I agree with Commissioner Carrick's comments about the staircase. That the side window and raise the plate height a little bit will make that stair works a lot better. My comments are back to the architecture. I mean, first, I like the overall design. It's a very nice house. It's going to be a great, addition to the neighborhood. But and I understand your answer about the detail. But I recommend that don't leave those details, especially the window shutter, the material, the louver, don't leave them to the contractor, because you have a great design and the contractor might use some other material or cheaper material to ruin your design. So the outcome may not be the same as you expected. And last one is that the tree size, the screening tree, and I'm hoping that the initial planting size can be specified as we approve the plan. So, I think that will be better for the staff to check on, doing the final inspection. That's what I have. I'm in favor of the project. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Frank, any questions or any comments?
Sure. So first of all, it is kind of it's a neat neighborhood. I've always enjoyed that neighborhood as well. It's a tough project, right? It's a 6,100 square foot lot, and we're right at the 2,167 square feet of the building, done very well by the architect. I think one of the neighbors that spoke characterized it well, that it'll fit right back in with the modifications and give the family the space that they need. So I would say well done. As far as the staircase, I'll leave that to Jude and whatever the recommendation is going to be made here. Light pollution is a problem when quarters are tight like that. So if there's a way to improve it, I would be in favor of that. But generally speaking, well done is what I would say. And I'm in favor of the project either way, what happens with the staircase.
Great, thank you, Frank. Sam, any comments?
Yeah, as the others have said, it's a nice project, and I like the area too. Ride my bike through that area sometimes, so I'm in favor of it, and I think it's going to add to the neighborhood and to their family.
Great, thank you. And I as well support the project. I'm not an architect, so I can't really comment specifically on how the stairway works one way or the other. So I, like Frank, would approve it either which way. That being said, again, do we have a, oh, my brain just died. Help me out here, guys. A motion, there we go. Do we have a motion on this project?
Well, can I ask a question of the applicant?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Kerr.
Absolutely.
We don't want the architect designer we don't want to modify a building in a condition without your, your, how should we say, approval as the designer. We can do that tonight to keep your project moving forward, or we can condition your project to have you come back and make a small tweak. Our
I can
preference
tell
is,
you, we would love to move forward. Absolutely, would be number one. If the condition to move forward would be that it gets enlarged and the windows get shifted to the side, we're amenable to that, and we'll be happy to just present that with the next round.
okay, that'd be great. Okay. Chair Blockus?
Yep.
On that, based on that comment, I'd like to make a motion.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I move that we approve SC 20-0007, the addition remodel at 48 Paso Robles Avenue per the findings and conditions in the staff report, with the additional condition that the applicant, one, eliminate the side-facing window at the landing in the stairwell. Two, raise the plate height from the landing to at least somewhere between 8 and 9 feet, sufficient to allow them to do at least a 2x2 window at 8 feet facing the rear and front properties. That makes sense?
Sean, did you get that?
Yes, I did get that.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote on it. Sam?
Aye.
Jude?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Michael? Michael?
Aye.
Great, thank you. And me, Commissioner Blockus is an aye as well. So congratulations, it passes 5-0 with those couple of adjustments.
Thank you guys very much. Really appreciate all your time.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have item number 4, SC 21-0014 for property at 283 Suncrest Lane. Steve, could you give us a staff report?
Yep. Let me get my screen going here. I'm kind of on a new setup here, so hopefully this works. One sec. I'll try to begin. This is an odd setup right now. Okay, so this is a design review application for a new 2-story residence. The project includes a new 4,030 square foot 2-story single family residence with 2,259 square feet on the first story and 1,771 square feet on the second story. There is an attached ADU included, and as the Design Review Commission knows, that's not really subject of the design review, but it's just noted here. The subject property is located on the east side of Sunkist Lane, north of Almond Avenue, which is off to the bottom of the screen here. This neighborhood is best characterized as a consistent character neighborhood according to the city's residential design guidelines. We noted that most of the residences on Sunkist Lane are single-story residences having a fairly low scale horizontal roof eave and low gable roofs or hipped roofs. The lots are similar in size and they have consistent front yard setbacks with attached garages facing the street. This is a kind of a neighborhood site plan. I've identified the structures that are 1-story or 2-story. You'll kind of see at the top in kind of a ghosted form behind the house are 1-story. They're not, the footprints are not shown, but I just kind of identify them as 1-story houses here. So again, on the east side of Sunkist, which is on the top part of this page, north is to the left. Those residences on the east side have mostly retained their original ranch style characteristics and aesthetics, while most of the residences on the west side, or the bottom portion, have gone through some exterior modifications or been rebuilt. They generally have some taller front-facing gables and more formal designs. They're noted there's 2 residences across the street that are 2-story. The one at 288, it appears like a 1-story at the front, but I believe it's more of a 2-story at the back. And again, the properties directly to the rear of the subject site on North Avalon Drive, they kind of share the similarities of the residences on the east side of Sunkist Lane. So kind of preserving those ranch style aesthetics. With regards to the proposed site plan, the applicant proposes to demolish the existing house. It's a 1-story house. It has an attached garage. It's all going to be demolished and they're going to replace it with the attached, the 2-story residence with attached garage and the attached 1st-story ADU. There is a new driveway proposed along the north side, or the left, to the left of this slide. And the existing driveway is shown to remain, but staff recommends that that driveway be removed and landscape planted in that area. I've included a chart of the development standards here and how this project will either meet or exceed the R110 zoning district setback standards. There will be some slight reductions of approximately 2 feet at the right side and 3 feet at the front setbacks. When you compare it to the existing setbacks, will be a 2 feet reduction to the right and a 3 feet to the front. The 2nd story is outlined on this slide with a dashed line. The right side 2nd story setback is almost double that of the required 17.5 foot setback, and the left side 2nd story setback is 11.5 feet greater than the required 17.5 foot 2nd story side yard setback. I've identified with the arrow here, they are proposing a small, they're calling it a 2nd story terrace or a balcony, which is in the rear portion of the house. With regards to the elevations, they are proposing this house that has a more contemporary design characteristics as compared to the existing house. That the house is proposed with a hip roof structure. It's fairly low scaled 3 and 12 pitch roofs. The massing is generally centered over the 1st story. The front elevation shown here, there is quite a bit of building articulation, but mostly focused on the 2nd story, whereas the 1st story has more of a flat front. But there is a recessed entry at the 1st story, which gives it a little bit of articulation. There is a strong horizontal eave line along the front, which breaks the 1st story and the 2nd story massing, and it reduces some of the bulk appearance. This design was the result of a number of iterations I believe that the applicant will go through that a little bit more, but I just wanted to make you aware that there was concerns about the previous designs that had a more vertical appearance, which we thought showed a little bit more bulkiness to it and perhaps excessive as kind of described through the residential design guidelines, and not in conformance with that lower scale residence, the low scale residences in that neighborhood. Again, as noted in the agenda report, and you can kind of see it in the slide here to the left, there is a bit of improvement that could probably be done with regards to the garage structure. It doesn't really integrate well with the structure behind it. While it's not really a design issue, just construction wise, it might be kind of difficult to make this work when they go through construction. So we just noted that in the agenda report. Moving on to the right side elevation, again, to note the wall plate heights are shown here, 9.5 feet at the first story. The right side second story has 4 small windows with 6-foot windowsill heights, and 2 windows are shown with 4-foot windowsill heights. I've noted here window 1 is within the stairway landing area, and actually they note it as a 4-foot windowsill height, but I think it's actually a lot taller than 4 feet because it's in the stairwell. And number 2 is in a bedroom area, but that element is actually much further back from the side property line at about 68.5 feet from the right side and 37 feet from the rear property line. This is the left elevation. You'll note that in the front of the building, it's the lower plate height for the garage. And then they have proposed a 11-foot wall plate height along the left rear side of the structure, which is the family room. Again, this was actually the result of staff asking them to reduce the height, the wall plate heights. And they ended up with an 11-foot plate height, but we are recommending further reductions of that to be more consistent with the rest of the structure, wall plate heights, and again, the scale of the residences in the neighborhood. At the second story, there are 3 windows. 2 of them have a 6-foot windowsill height, and 1 window has a 4-foot windowsill height. But that window is oriented more in the front and approximately 54 feet from the left side property line. Moving to the rear of the house, again, they are proposing this rear facing balcony. I've noted on the kind of roof plan on the top of the slide where that balcony or terrace is located. It's pretty well screened off from the sides with the walls of the structure. It does overlook into the rear, but it's set back approximately 42 feet from the rear property line, or that's 17 feet in excess of the required setback. It is designed to be just over 4 feet in depth, which respects the residential design guidelines recommendation for no more than 4 feet in depth. Just real quick with regards to trees, there were a total of 6 trees either on or just abutting the property lines. Of the 6 trees, 2 trees in the front yard are proposed to be removed. They are protected trees because they're over 48 inches in circumference. There was an arborist report noting that the trees were top for utilities. They're not particularly appropriate to be under the utility lines because I believe one's a redwood and the other is a pine tree. This is the landscape plan. They do propose a Victorian box tree in the rear yard and a Chinese pistache in the front yard as replacement trees. They're proposing hybrid laurels and podocarpus along the side and rear property lines, which are evergreen species for privacy screening. And as I suggested before and identified with the arrow, we are recommending to remove this portion of the driveway in the front and install plant material there. I would note that the neighbor did reach out to, the property owner reached out to the neighbors throughout the design process. There were several iterations of the design. They did provide some of that feedback to staff. Staff did receive other correspondences. All of that information was provided to the Design Review Commission in the agenda packet. That's just I'm not going to make any particular comments with regards to that. There was a lot of input from the surrounding neighbors. And I would say that some of that was based on the previous designs, which again went through a lot of iterations. They did reduce the wall plate heights to, in some places, fairly considerably, in others, maybe not so much. They did reduce, staff felt that they did reduce a lot of the bulkiness and the vertical elements, yet there was still some public input and correspondence that came in after the agenda was published. So with that, staff is recommending the Design Review Commission approve the design review application subject to the findings and conditions contained in the agenda report. I'm noted on this slide all of the sort of unique conditions that we're recommending. And that concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions that you might have, and the applicant is here as well.
Great, thank you, Steve. Commissioners, any question for staff?
None.
Okay, Commissioner Harding, nothing? Jude, any questions?
Well, yeah, and I'm seeing it on the screen right now. From looking at the plans, the ADU, I know ADUs aren't in our purview, but this one doesn't show a kitchen. I see a condition about exterior access. So to me, on face value, this doesn't look like an ADU. And I see there's some conditions of that. So I think that should be, given that it's integral to the design, I think it makes a difference as how we look at it. And then my other question for Steve is, I'm just trying to figure out, is there something going on this street? Because I look at the existing survey and the existing house is 15 feet from the rear property. Is this an old area that has been incorporated? Because there seems to be an exceptionally wide street and very shallow lots, and
Yeah.
part of the issue is the depth of these lots and the setback from the streets are so minimal in back and extravagant in front. So what's with the existing home, and then do you know anything about the street?
I was trying to grab the plans and move it to the other screen, and I'm having some difficulty. But there is some oddities of different subdivisions in the area. I know that, and you can kind of, if I can get this, kind of struggling. Acting really odd. Let me try to stop this. There is I know that there's a remnant portion of a street next to the right of this particular property. You may have noticed that there's an ADU on that property, which it it's just very odd because it's the rear portion of the lot that is on Avalon, but it's sort of the front portion of Sunkist. So I think there was probably some different subdivisions that had gone through in this area and perhaps resulted in these somewhat strange elements that you were just noting.
Steve, could I ask a quick question? Is that correct that the ADU next to the property belongs to the property across the street?
It belongs to the property that fronts onto Avalon. There was a remnant of it was kind of a vacated street remnant that the city kind of vacated that dedication. So we gave up that dedication. I'm not sure why it was given to the rear, because typically they split the street in half and half goes to either abutting properties. And that was done several years ago. I don't really want to revisit that necessarily because it's not part of this, but I have a feeling that there were a variety of different subdivisions that proposed different access roads through this area, and it was resolved by the design that was approved at the time for those subdivisions.
But is that address correct? You got two addresses at 288 Sunkist on opposite sides of the street, or is that 288 Avalon?
I'd have to look at our map here. I can't confirm right now. But the proposed lot, or the lot, is actually on the site plan. It shows 105 feet in depth, so it meets our minimum depth requirements of 100 feet. As noted from Commissioner Keurig, it's 125 feet wide, so it's wider than is deep, but that's just the nature of these lots.
So just kind of following up on that, there's been discussion in the correspondence about 2 stories. Has there ever been any kind of movement of a single story overlay on both Sunkist and North Avalon? I know they're 2-story homes in some portions, but it's primarily or predominantly single story.
I'm not aware of that, Sean. Since he's been here a little bit longer than me, are you aware of any single story overlay desires?
No, not at all. We've only had one new overlay in the last 9 years, and this is not one of those properties.
So, yeah, as the commission is aware, per the zoning district standards, the property owner does have the right for a 2-story, and it's really just with that 1-story overlay that would limit it to 1 story. And as shown on the neighborhood plan, there are some 2 stories in the area. So I just wanted to address your other comment about the ADU kitchen. There is a kitchen shown on A2.001. So there is a kitchen shown there. I see a stove or a range top, what appears to be a refrigerator. I would just point out that the door that they're proposing is not a person door, a door with a hinge on it, and that would be the element that would need to be modified to make it more in compliance with the ADU ordinance.
Yeah, the problem is the plans that I have in front of me are very light and actually hard to read.
Yep.
It's unfortunate. So especially for the kitchen.
Yeah, and that would be further reviewed as when this goes to the construction documentation. We would ensure that the ADU has a minimum 10 cubic foot fridge, and has the stovetop an oven and has cabinets that are proportional to the size of the kitchen and the ADU.
Is there any requirement of a pathway leading from the street to the door at the ADU?
There's not a pathway per se. Noted that if they modify that sliding door to put a regular door in, yeah, it's kind of at the rear. I would say from a public safety standpoint, if there is an emergency there, not the most desirable for the first responders to try to find a door to get into, but
Okay, and you have no clue why they have a 15-foot existing setback at the rear there? That's just something that's been grandfathered in?
yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
No special CC&Rs or something?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if it's the neighborhood around it was subdivided and that was just a resulting situation. I'm not sure.
Okay, thanks.
Frank, do you have any questions for staff?
Not right now. I've been listening to the discussion around the ADU, and I don't understand. I know we don't really have any purview over them, but in this case, I don't understand why or how we do a design review if it's part of the design of the house. So I still struggle with that, but I'm going to listen to see if I can learn as this meeting goes forward.
Okay. Michael, any questions?
No, I don't have any question.
Okay, I'm gonna take a second to get my notes kind of figured out. Steve, is there any requirement on how, should this be classified as a J ADU because it's attached to the building? And is there any requirements on, not the ADU side, but on the non-ADU side for solid walls or firewalls or anything like that between the two, in theory, structures?
Yeah, so the difference between a JDU and an attached ADU, there are some differences. I'll just note that a JDU maximum size would be 500 square feet. It
Correct.
doesn't necessarily have to have a full kitchen as shown with an ADU. An ADU has to have a full kitchen. It also is built within the confines of the existing residence, so it does not it's not technically considered a separate unit under the building code. So you don't need fire separation between a JDU and the main house, but an ADU you do need full separation. So the wall units and the ceiling unit, all the way from the ceiling down through the foundation to the ground, will need to be fire separated between the ADU and the main dwelling. There's some other things with regards to electrical. The ADU will have to have a separate sub panel. It'll have to have a separate HVAC system, whereas a JDU doesn't necessarily have to have that. They can have kind of a shared water, kind of plumbing, and but those are the main sort of technical differences.
Okay, and so in this particular project, there is a door going from the ADU to the main house. Is that correct? As long as it's a fire rated door, or how does that work?
That's correct. The code says that they can have a door. They don't, it's not a shall have a door, but they can. And it would need to provide fire separation. It can
Okay.
be locked. It doesn't, yeah, it can be locked as, well, it should have a lock mechanism to separate it. But it would have to be a fire rated door.
Okay. And let me check. I thought I had one more question. Nope, I guess that's all for me at this point. Is the applicant and or the
I just lost David's, I think he just muted himself.
Yeah, I just muted myself.
I think he
Sorry
was,
about that. Yeah,
the applicant is here, or the architect, I believe.
correct. Yeah, I'm looking for the applicant and
Hi.
or the architect.
Good evening, commissioners. Yes, both the applicant and architect. My firm is right here.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Navneet Aaron. I am the founder at Livio. We are the design firm for our clients, Brian and Kim, who are here as well. And I would like to share my screen and walk you guys through a quick presentation.
And I just want to, while you get that up, I just want to remind you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Please confirm if you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, Steve, for nicely elaborating the project. I would like to quickly just talk about the four topics that were discussed previously. First item I would like to just bring up quickly is that we have consistent 9.5 feet plate height on the first floor. We received 4 conditions of approval just a few days ago, and we have addressed all the 4 conditions as I will show in our presentation. And the consistent plate height on the first floor is 9.5 feet, and on the second floor is 9 feet. Also, the ADU kitchen, as was just clarified by Steve, has the ADU kitchen on sheet number A2.001 shows the kitchen that has been provided. And also, one of the comments that was discussed earlier, garage on the first floor being integrated, it's been, as a part of the conditions of approval, it's been consistently integrated well with the consistent eave line as well. So let me walk you through, but before we dive in, I would like to invite Brian to say a few words about his project.
Okay, good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Brian Kim, and this is my wife, Grace Chan. We currently are a family of 6, with all 4 of our kids attending the schools in LASD and MVLA district. Our kids have been going to schools in LASD for over 10 years now, and we hope to live out the rest of our lives in Los Altos because we've literally fallen in love with this neighborhood. So over a year ago, when we came across this property on 283 Sunkist that is in walking distance to Almond and Los Altos High School, and also has a lot size that's large enough to accommodate a 2-story home that will comfortably fit our growing family, we just couldn't let the opportunity pass. So for our family, a 1-story home wouldn't really meet our needs, as we need to utilize a yard area for our 4 kids to be able to play in. But more importantly, in addition, my wife has always felt more comfortable in a 2-story home ever since she was young. So which is why our hearts have always been set on building a 2-story home. Lastly, with my father passing away as a result of COVID early last year, my mother has been living alone in Southern California, waiting tirelessly for us to finish building our home so that she can come and stay with us. Therefore, we would greatly appreciate your support in approving our project. And now I'll pass it back over to Navneet.
Thank you, Brian. I would like you to quickly walk through the project development cycle. We worked with our clients and the staff. Our first submission was in April 2021. Based on pretty much right away, we started working with the neighbors. We did an outreach right away, and we received high quality feedback. And as a result of that, we iterated pretty rapidly and eliminated the bulk of the vertical bulk element in the front and replaced it with the iteration number 2 that you see on submission number 2 on the right side, top right side. Furthermore, we iterated once again based on the feedback from the staff as well as the neighbors, and dropped the plate heights further and achieved what you see in submission number 3 at the bottom right corner. And that submission was finally approved and completed, reached the completeness status. And we recently received 4 conditions of approval. The final design that you see on the bottom left corner is a result of that. So this further reduces the plate heights on first floor to 9.5 feet everywhere, removes the driveway on the right side, and provides separate entrance to the ADU. These are the 4 conditions of approval we recently received, and they are part of the design iteration to the plan sets that the commission has today. This shows the progression of design changes in the rear elevation. As you can see, the original design on the top left corner had a much larger balcony on the top right side of the image. And you can see the design had windows which were at a much lower sill level across the back facade. Based on the feedback from the neighbors, we dramatically changed the rear elevation of the property. All the windows along the rear were raised up significantly, and we created a very small balcony which has been blocked by all 3 sides so that it doesn't interfere with doesn't cause any of the privacy issues for any of the neighbors, which we'll further discuss in the next slide. You can see the further iteration, dropping the plate heights as a part of a completeness status project in January 2022. And the last one, which we have proposed as a part of the COAs, addressing the last 4 conditions that we have just received. This just builds upon what Steve mentioned. We offer significantly more than the allowed setbacks. We are offering 26.6 feet in the front, 36.5 feet rear setback, and 23.5 feet on the side, and 10 feet on the side. On the second level, we are offering extremely large setbacks, almost 34 feet, 29 feet on the 2 sides, and we are well within the lot coverage numbers. This visual is created to essentially address any privacy concerns that have been raised by the neighbors in the neighborhood. Most of like Steve pointed out at the beginning, most of the neighborhood concerns were primarily because of our original design, the very first iteration of the design. But since then, because of the dramatically changed layout and floor plans, I believe we have addressed all of the neighborhood concerns. As you can see, the distance between, so we're pointing views from the balcony in the bottom of the screen, in the middle of the screen. And you can see not only the distance between that balcony to 300 North Avalon is 109 feet, but it is also blocked by existing trees. The distances from there to the rear property at 290 Avalon is 68 feet, and to 288 North Avalon is 70 feet. Also, the line of sight from the windows on level 2 to the right side here in this image is 87 feet and 39 feet on the left side. This further elaborates the rear elevation. We have gone the distance to do anything and everything possible, flying drones, etc. I will point out in a second. But the only windows we have on the rear side are either at 6 feet sill height, where you cannot see anything, or or what you see is the recessed balcony, and we have drone views, which we will show you in just a second. And the only other window with a 4 feet 6 inch plate height, sill height on the left side. This is a drone shot from the terrace. We flew the drone at 16 feet height at the exact location of the terrace, and showing what a person would see if they were to stand there. Looking towards 300 Avalon, you can see that blocked completely by the trees. Furthermore, it'll be blocked by the building, part of our building, which is meant to completely block any views towards 300 North Avalon. You can see existing foliage, existing landscaping behind the fence line towards 290 Avalon. We are further proposing landscape trees, screening trees along the rear fence on our side of the property. And you can see towards 288 extensive landscaping that already exists, which is planned to be protected as well. And these are the trees which we will discuss shortly here. Just talking about side elevations, we have 6 feet height on the bathroom windows, and Steve already talked about the staircase window, where effective height is extremely high. And you can see we have really gone the distance to make sure that there is no views, no way to interfere with any of the neighbors' privacy on any of the sites. This neighborhood, as we evaluated, has all of these homes indicated with two-story indicators are two-story homes. You can see clearly several homes on Sunkist, as well as on Avalon are two-story. There are 12 homes which we surveyed and which are two-story homes in this image. You can see these are all images provided for two-story homes. The houses indicated in red are the houses who have expressed, to our knowledge, any concern about our project, and we have tried our best to address any privacy concerns provided by them. And we are happy to further. We have always been committed right from the beginning to work with the neighbors to address any of the concerns. In terms of the materials and design inspirations, we have a lot of the elements which exist in the neighborhood have been part of our design inspiration. Gray shingles, entry feature lined with stucco and stone, stucco metal windows, siding elements, stone elements, and the existing home lap siding. So we are using a combination of stone veneer, lap siding, stucco, and instead of shingles, we have introduced superior roofing materials like gray Tesla roof on level 2, which acts as solar panels, enabling sustainable and eco-friendliness. And metal seam roof on level 1 is also provided. I would like to quickly discuss our neighborhood outreach effort. So like I had mentioned in the beginning, we reached out to the neighbors very, very early on, hoping that we would be able to understand their concerns and address them as efficiently as possible. We conducted a virtual community meeting on July 13, 2021. These were the times when COVID was at its, has been still a pretty big deal all of last year. And we tried our best to be respectful, reaching out by mail, physical mail, and requesting people to be able to join us either for in-person meeting if they were unable to it, or to meet us via online meeting. And that's the reason we send them mailers, really hoping to exchange a dialogue and understand the concerns and address them. Several neighborhood visits were done and emails were exchanged, and we sent out second letter in September, and further the noticing was provided on February 3rd, 2022. I would like to invite Grace to talk about her experience and her experience during this neighborhood outreach process.
Sorry to interrupt. The 10 minutes is up, so if the chair wants to provide some more time, you can.
I'll give another minute or so.
Please go ahead.
David, did you want to continue?
No, please go ahead.
You have one additional minute.
Okay. Again, my name is Grace. Good evening. When my husband and I started this process, we felt like, our 4 kids on Christmas morning. But thinking back, I think we were a bit naive and didn't expect all this anguish and anxiety that has come with it. We've enjoyed working with the city staff. It's been amazing. But, as you know, when we brought kind of neighbors in the mix, things got a little bit stressful. We came out to some of these meetings feeling kind of devastated and depressed that felt like we were repeatedly being pushed into building a 1-story home, even though we kept trying to explain our reasons. I remember even going through each of their requests in their letter and marking off what they wanted. They asked for us to move the location of the bedrooms. We did that. They didn't want large windows at the back. We did that. They wanted our bathroom heights at 6 feet in the back and side. We did that. Privacy concerns. We proposed the trees, removed the terrace, recessed our remaining terrace. We basically rearranged our entire floor plan and our landscape based on their comments. And we put a lot of thought and effort to incorporate each neighbor's issues. But we even sacrificed, I guess, some of what the things our kids wanted. But when we received the same type of feedback after our next iteration, we were a bit flabbergasted that, they said that we didn't make any, or we haven't tried, or we didn't make any changes. Every internal meeting we have was about, how to address their concerns. And we feel that's important as well. But it felt like short of building a 1-story house, we couldn't make them happy. But there have been some neighbors that have encouraged us and supported us, and we feel great about that. And we're thankful to the staff for providing us suggestions. And we feel confident that we've done our best to meet them. So we hope the commission can help support us today.
Great, thank you. Why don't we go ahead and close that off and have questions from the commission to the applicant? Sam, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Michael?
Yeah, I just have one minor question. On the roofing material, it was noted both Tesla roof and metal roof. I am assuming that the second floor, it looks, I mean, it's not clear to me, assuming that the second floor, the upper roof will be Tesla roof and the lower will be metal.
That is correct.
Okay, all right, that's, I just need that clarification. All right, that's all I have, thank you.
Frank, any questions?
Just generally a question.
Go ahead.
When the when the architect gave his presentation, he talked about changes that were made to the prints. Are those the prints we have tonight?
Commissioner, you do not have the resolutions to the 4 conditions of approval that we received just a few days ago. We revised the plans and submitted it to the staff, but I don't believe you have those. Those are actually summarized right here on my screen.
That's good enough. Okay, thank you.
Great.
I don't know why we have these meetings when we don't have the right set of plans. I put hours into this, and I'm looking at the wrong plans. Why do we do this?
We'll have to have a discussion with staff on that at a later point.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, I'm confused. So.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you, Frank. Jude, any questions?
Well, not to echo Frank, but what am I looking at the screen? Because I look at the screen right now, and I'm looking at the roof plan in my set, and it's completely different roof lines. And
Jude, if I may answer the question.
Go ahead.
So we did not have to incorporate these 4 conditions of approval. Typically, staff provides conditions of approval as a part of the preparation for the DRC meeting. And typically the applicant would accept those feedback or deny, and would generally work upon them after the approval. In this case, we just tried to go above and beyond and address those concerns and show them how we have addressed them. If you care, otherwise we can, we can discuss the project only based on what is in front of you and accept all the 4 conditions that were provided as a part of the staff condition of approval.
okay, so in defense of staff gave conditions, and you've accelerated your revisions in your presentation tonight, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, so I think that answers what went on. Was staff aware you were going to be doing this?
We did provide the revision to the staff as a result of the feedback that we got, the COAs that we got. So we did turn it around, and we were expecting to be able to discuss how we have addressed those as well, because those are mostly
When did you give
them this?
When did you give them this? What we're looking at?
I believe we have provided this mid of last week, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
The plan set.
Great. The only question I have is related to discussions with the neighbors, which is fairly thorough. The one thing I didn't get was you had made a comment about 331 Sunkist Court, that their link didn't work, but they had a couple of questions, quote. What were those questions, if you recall? What were their concerns?
Brian, so we tried reaching out to them by email to set up a time to discuss their questions, but we were never able to meet. They never kind of stopped kind of responding.
We asked if they had anything to reach back out to us, and then we didn't hear back. We stopped by a couple times, but nobody was home.
So did you get questions from them, or a statement saying we have questions for you, but you never received anything?
That's correct. In their email, they said that they have a couple of questions, but we never received those questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. With all questions to the applicant, we'll go ahead and close that now and then open it up for public comment.
Chair.
Yeah.
Before you open up the public comment, I just feel like I may need to respond, because I feel like a question in there to the applicant, and with regards to staff seeing these plans, I have not seen these plans. I've had ongoing discussions about the wall plate height issues with the applicant, and so I have not seen these plans at all either. We just as a rule, before we do the public notice, we collect the final materials from the applicant and ensure that's what is going to the commission. So whatever the applicant is showing tonight,
Is new to you as well.
I think they're just showing you that they can satisfy those conditions that we've put in place to move this project along.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Steve. Let's get back to, well, thanks for the clarification. Let's get back to public comment at this point. Do we have anyone from the public who wishes to speak?
Yeah, I know that there's a number of people that might be on this call to provide comments. So if you can find the hand feature or any other gesture, then we'll see how many people are on waiting to respond or provide a comment, and then the chair will then.
Yeah, I need to decide how much time.
But I only see one person right now, Chris and Kristen K. But I know that there's potentially other people, but we can begin with the first person if you want.
Okay, so you see maybe 2 or 3, not 10 or 20.
Now I see 2, 3, but there's just seems to be a lot of people on, and I know that there's a lot of public correspondence provided, so.
Okay, why don't we, if there's 3, 4-ish, let's go ahead and allow 3 minutes per, maximum of 3 minutes, and we'll, you can go ahead and start with whoever you wish.
Okay, I'll call off people. So
just we can't find the hand feature, just in case. So several of us want to speak, but we are not able to find the hand
okay. We'll start with the people with the gestures or the hands, and then we'll move further. So I see that there's probably at least 4. So the first speaker, the name on the screen that I have is Chris and Kristen K.
Steve, before we start, could we change, on my screen I have the, some information about the project. Yeah, we can do.
Let me share my timer and reset this. So you wanted 3 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you see my timer now?
Yes.
Okay. So the first person was Chris and Kristen K.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great. You can go ahead and start the timer if you want, Ben. Yeah, so firstly, I want to address the concern about two-story home, and we have no issue with two-story home whatsoever. Our concern is about precedent being set with ADU being incorporated into the home square footage. We live across the street from the proposed home at 283 Sunkist. We're at 270 Sunkist. Our home was shown as a 2-story. It is not actually currently a 2-story. We will be actually starting our renovation probably next week, where we will be incorporating a true ADU, one that actually has fire separation, no doors to it, a separate entrance, separate, electric power, separate water heater, separate everything, as was discussed earlier. And actually no windows facing the primary residence at all. When we first moved in 25 years ago, the street across from us was 4 easements. So I know there was a question about what that was. 1 year after moving in, the owners of Sunkist were in a battle with the planned developments of 288 Avalon, which basically brought all the people on Sunkist together. The owners and developer of the attempted to build and rent and sell a substandard ADU that faced Sunkist.
the Gavinmans I know currently live there, and Kim Gavinman I know wrote several of the plays my kids participated in at Almond, and they're great. However, 24 years later, here we are with the Kims attempting to not only build a home that is at the limit of the square footage, within 24 square feet of the maximum setback height, but also incorporate a so-called ADU into this home. It's obvious to the most casual observer that the ADU is simply an addition to their home. They're a family of 6, and the house minus the ADU is only 4 bedrooms. Who would build a brand new home for 4 kids with only 3 bedrooms available to them? This ADU, when we looked into ours, we walked door to door and shared our plans with the neighbors. However, what's happened from the Kims is very different than that. The ADU is simply supposed to be an ADU, not an extension of a home, and not there to skirt the acceptable lot coverage limits. The home, as we see it, is something that's against the standards of Los Altos as a whole. We think that a precedent will be set if this is allowed to continue. And we do agree, that it is quite voluminous, and agree with, the people on Avalon, but that's not my major beef. I realize my time's run out, but the point here is that we want to make sure that, the Kim's residence is in keeping with the feeling and the neighborhood of Los Altos, and that we're not setting a precedent here by allowing just 800 square feet to be added to a home, increasing the volume of the home.
Okay. I'm going to have to cut you off, Chris.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, all righty. Thank you for your comments. Steve?
Just trying to get to my mute. The next person I have on my screen, their screen name is Dawn Edgren. Dawn.
Video? Okay, we're here. My husband is here, David.
So, okay, yeah, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much for putting this meeting together and for listening to all the different arguments. We live across the street from 290 North Avalon at 277 North Avalon. So our view from our breakfast nook area out to the west is over the 290 North Avalon Drive. Currently, there's a nice stand of redwood trees. And this project, if it was allowed to go forward as drawn, would have a very monolithic, white, stucco, commercial-looking structure blocking all of that view, and completely out of character of a residential look for the other houses in the neighborhood, both on our street and the street that they're building on. Also, I'd want to make a comment on the landscape screening. We actually had a bad experience with that. Our next door neighbor planted a vegetative screening wall, and it's over 17 feet tall now. And unfortunately, the overgrowth is not just on their side of the yard, but it's also on our side of the yard. So we actually end up having to pay our gardener $1,000 every year just to cut back what's growing from their side of the fence. So we'd like to see if there are any screening trees placed that they be put closer to the house and not next to the fence. Also, to add to that, we had 2 small fruit trees, which were very productive, a pear tree and an apple tree. After that screening wall was put in and matured, both of those trees died. And we believe it's because the invasive root systems from those trees went under the ground and killed our little productive trees. So we would like to see screening trees, if they're put anywhere, be put close to the house and not close to the fence. Those are really my main points. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Just a question for the record. The person who just spoke, they don't need to provide the name, but it helps us manage our records. So
yeah, no, it's Dave Edgren, E-D-G-R-E-N. And the address is 277 North Avalon Drive.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, the next speaker on my screen is, it's like, is Stephen Drenkler? Sorry, Drenker.
Stephen, are you there?
The big white ball taking away all the afternoon sun.
Yeah.
I don't, that's another.
What was that?
Let me just mute them. So, excuse me, Stephen Drenker, are you available? Or sorry, dude, you're unmuted. I don't know if your mic is not working. We'll try to come back if you can click on the mic. There's a little arrow next to it. You might be able to switch your mic. I think we can move on. There was another speaker. I don't have their name up on my screen, but if you would like to talk on this project, then please do so. Maybe I see Stephen Drenker. Can you speak now? So this is the public comment. If anybody else would like to provide a public comment on this particular project, please do so. I see Diane Marie Forster.
Yes,
Diane, if you'd like to make a comment, go ahead.
sure. My parents live at 290 Avalon, North Avalon. And we're just here listening to all the comments. And, you know, there's a lot of emotion involved in some of this, but I think for us, for them having their backyard, having the big bulk of the size of the building behind them with the big white wall, you know, sort of facing everything they look out onto, spending all the time they do out in the backyard, blocking their sunlight in the afternoon. And it just seems like it's overwhelming, the size of the building to them.
Okay.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. The next person I see, we'll go back to Stephen Drenker. Can you speak now? Looks like they're still having problems. The next speaker I see with their hand raised is Vasuna.
This is Steve.
There's feedback.
Stephen, are you available? Oh wait, Stephen, are you there? Okay, let's move on. Vasuna.
Yes, thank you, Steve. This is Saroshin Miller for Vasuna. We have lived at 300 Avalon Drive for about the last 30 years. And we, as a group of the 8 affected Avalon neighbors, have submitted several bullet point worth of feedback, which is in the record. There are about 25 different bullet points. All of that is based on the fact that the east side of Sunkist, which is where 283 Sunkist is, and the west side of Avalon, which is our side of Avalon, are predominantly single-story homes. As a matter of fact, the two-story home on the side of Sunkist was built in 1908. It's a 2,000 square foot home on half an acre lot. So if you walked around on any side of that home, you won't even know there's a two-story home in there. It's tiny. The other one at 321 Sunkist is actually an attic that was converted to a second story with a small addition. Again, from any side on Avalon, you would never even know that there is a two-story home. It's a single-story elevation. Having said that, we have submitted several concerns related to the bulk of this project, a 5,000 square foot project, 4,800 or so to be accurate, on where most of the homes are about 2,300 to 2,500 square foot ranch style homes. the invasion of privacy of all of us on Avalon that are backed up to this project. And looking at a 20-foot high wall of white and then another 7 foot at the roof line, trying to cover that up with 30 to 40 feet of straight back foliage at the boundary line, at the fence line, just does not seem like something that anyone would want to do. When we did discuss with the owners, they showed little concern for the fact that they would be eating into the square feet or the backyards of their neighbors by putting all this up, and actually commented on the fact that they would not build a larger single story with a basement to get the square footage because they wanted more backyard. When we pointed out that you'll be eating into our backyard with all this foliage by not getting sunshine, breeze, the fact that fences are supposed to be normally about 6 to 8 feet, and this is going to be 40 feet high in terms of the screening. It's just a fence if you put it right at the fence line. They had little concern for any of that. And their architect conveniently showed you 2 letters. He conveniently did not show you the other 10 or 20 pages opposing this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasuna.
And I'm sorry, and all of that is in a public record, so I didn't want to go through all of it right now.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen, anyone else?
I see, let's go back to Stephen Drinker. You're unmuted now. Stephen? It still looks like he's having some issues. I see another hand raised, Ken Sims. Ken?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm Ken Sims. I live at 301 North Avalon. So I'm across the street from the Vasunas. And by the way, as a point of note, the 2 houses on North Avalon that are 2-story are on both sides of me. And what I point that out because there's such a contrast between the way those houses are designed and the proposed design of this house. Each of those houses has a smaller upstairs, much smaller than the downstairs, where there's a master bedroom and an office about half the size of the bottom floor. And so, you know, just the thing that concerns me about this design is just it's good to have such a large structure, you know, with the second floor almost as big as the first floor. You know, I think it would be much more appropriate to have, you know, I'm also not opposed to the second story, but having a much smaller space up there that is positioned towards the front of the house rather than the back of the house, I think would be much more in keeping with the designs of the neighborhood. You know, I do welcome the Kimson neighborhood. I think that, you know, they picked a great place to live and to raise their kids. Our kids went to school at the local schools here, but I think that the house is too big on 2 levels plus the ADU for you know the rest of the neighborhood, and that does concern me.
Great, thank you, Ken.
Let me just lower this. I see Steven's now tried to log in with some other device, maybe.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
It only took 2 different browsers and several tries. Thank you. You know, my neighbors have expressed the same concerns. I'm at 265 North Avalon Drive across the street. I'm next door to the Edgrins who spoke. And the main concern that I've got is that the Kim's architect has done a pretty good job reducing the mass and bulk in accordance with the desires of the neighborhood. But what's very interesting is the master suite on the second floor. When you look at the proposed rear elevation of the rendering provided by the architect a few minutes ago, the page called Incorporating Conditions, it looks as though the entire master suite has been moved to the rear from the front of the house. The result is, from the sun-kissed side, the upper story is pushed way back. You get a lot of what was previously called articulation by Mr. Golden, which is often called shorelining in design, where you see different amounts of recess for the different masses of the second floor. But as a result of pushing the master suite to the rear, we've got this gigantic vertical wall, and part of the master suite is cantilevered over the patio. So we wind up with a rear vertical wall where the upper story is in line with the first story, and it just makes it very visually unappealing. It makes it look very massive to the neighbors that are behind it. And perhaps the entire second floor master suite could be shrunk in size, the rear wall pulled forward, or the entire master suite pushed forward to reduce the bulk and size of the appearance from the rear.
Great, thank you, Stephen.
My pleasure, thank you.
Now, Steve, anyone else?
Let me just lower the hand. I don't see any other hands raised, but if anybody would like to speak on this item, now is your opportunity. You can unmute yourself. Let me just check down the list. I don't see any callers that are muted that would not be able to speak now. So
Okay, then I am going to go ahead and close off the public comment.
I do see another hand
Yep,
raised.
I'm going to reopen that puppy right back up. So we have one last person for.
Kirsten Hellman.
Yeah, thank you for letting me speak. Yeah, my name's Kirsten Hellman. I'm actually the daughter-in-law of Jean and Paul Furster on 290 North Avalon. And I just, I think I'm kind of in line with what the previous caller just said, that the architect has put a lot of effort into addressing the comments about the bulk, and that there's a significant change that happened on the street facing on the sun-kissed lane elevation. But I do feel that the rear elevation still there's not very much articulation going on other than the balcony that is recessed. So I think that the problem of the bulk and what would cause shading on the rear yards on the North Avalon side it would be better addressed if the second floor would step back from the first floor line. So, and because that's the western facing, I mean, that's the west side, that's where the evening sun comes in, that's where the light for the rear yards on North Avalon are affected most. And that's also what is going to feel most dominant and looming over the fence line when you're in the backyard there. Which is, I think you might have seen on the image, the aerials that Steve Golden showed at the beginning, where you could see kind of the orientation of the backyards. The buildings on the North Avalon side, they all have nice backyards. That's where, people spend most of their time. And that's where I see, that's the effect that I'm mostly concerned with, that I understand the best, just from being in that backyard and from speaking to my mother-in-law about it. So that's what I wanted to mention, and thanks for letting me speak to this.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Yeah.
So Steve,
Don't
cleared everyone?
But if anybody wants to speak, now is your chance.
Okay.
Mr. Golden, can you hear me?
I just.
Hello?
Is that the number 713?
It is. This is John and Kim Gavinman calling from 288 North Avalon Drive. I cannot seem to unmute my Zoom or the Ring Central. Tried to unmute a few times, and I've sent some chats to say would like to come off mute. But if you can hear me, I'm now on my cell phone.
Yep. Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Terrific, thanks. I don't think I'll need all that time. I find myself torn between my new neighbors and our desire to have friendly relations with our new neighbors on 2 fences that we will share with them, and my desire to support the neighborhood that I've lived in for pushing 20 years and the neighborhood broadly that I've lived in for the better part of 45 years. There are probably 3 things worth saying, and I take the point that there are second-story designs that can absolutely work around us and that have worked perfectly well. I take all the prior points with respect to the bulk of this second-story design. For a family with young children, frankly, building a balcony on an upstairs floor seems like a dangerous thing to do. That's not my place to comment on particularly, other than for us, the balcony, which provides a direct line of sight view, and I take Navneet's point about the drone footage, but the drone footage takes into account an ivy wall that Grace, Brian, Kim, and my wife Kim and I have discussed. And I would say that ivy wall is not necessarily supported by all 4 of us, meaning we like it on our side, it provides great shade. It's not clear that it will survive the growth of fence-lined trees at 40 feet and a redwood tree that draws a lot of water, whose roots have come up to the surface looking for water, back to the Edgren's point about what happened to their trees. I don't have insight into that, but I would say there's less and less water in the soil these days, and more trees against the fence line is likely to have some detrimental impact on what is today a pretty good safeguard of privacy. If that privacy safeguard goes away, that drone footage is misleading. You will see directly from the balcony straight into our primary bedroom door. That is the line of sight, and that ignores the forester's property. So my encouragement would be keep your balcony, move it to the front of the house. If you want a balcony, have it. No problem facing the street. Second thing that's troubling is the ADU. I don't know all the rules around ADUs. I take everyone's point that our house seems to be the scandal with Los Altos, but fortunately, when we bought it, we didn't know all that. We never bought it with an intent to rent it. We've moved all of renters. We haven't rented the house out or that ADU in the 17 years we've owned the place, almost 18 years we've owned the place. And last but not least, with regard to the commissioner's discussions respectfully on the plans and what has been submitted and whatnot, I actually find it pretty troubling that the Kim's architect indicated that there were plans submitted to this commission that were submitted last Wednesday, when in fact that seems not to be the case according to Mr. Golden. And I am troubled deeply that this commission is engaging in this discussion tonight with an architect that is willing to make statements that are not completely candid to the commission. But I'll leave that to one side and let you all decide that for yourselves. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay,
Steve,
one more
anyone?
time. I don't see any other hands up. If anybody wants to speak on this subject matter, you're more than welcome to at this time.
This is Suresh Vasuna, just for a moment. I'm just assuming that everything we submitted.
No, hold it. Excuse me. I think you've already spoken.
Yeah, I just wanted to know that everything we've written is submitted.
Yep. No, excuse me. You've already had your time.
Okay.
We've moved on. Thank you.
So if there's anybody that has not made a public comment and would like to comment now, I don't see any hands raised, and I don't hear from anybody wanting to make a comment, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and then officially close off the public comment, and we'll move forward on this. Appoint Steve or Sean, since this is sort of the first time we've had a large amount of input from the neighborhood. I know there's some sort of rebuttal at some point that the applicant can do. Could you clarify to me what the procedural steps are?
Sure, Sean, do you want to address that?
Yeah, so after the public has provided their comments, the applicant has 5 minutes for rebuttal. to comments potentially from the commission and from the public. So typically it's a 5-minute timeline.
Okay, so I will go ahead and open that up to the applicant or to the applicant's designer architect. You have 5 minutes as a rebuttal time. Go ahead.
Give me one sec. Let me just get this.
Let's get the clock up and running.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks for bringing it up, and thank you to all the members of the community who have provided feedback today. We appreciate the feedback, and we are very sensitive, and I deeply care about the feedback that we received today, like we have received in the past. We have continuously tried to incorporate and adjust every bit of feedback to the best of our ability. With respect to the comments which have addressed the bulk and the mass of second story as well as the overall structure, as we have really tried hard to provide extensive setbacks, as I mentioned at the beginning part of my statements earlier, extensive setbacks from all sides of our property lines. And I really believe that has been an earnest effort to provide the distance and the privacy from the neighboring properties. The second topic of the master suite being moved as a result of our addressing the conditions of approval, I would like to point out that no floor plan changes were made, and the master suite continues to remain in the front location as it was in the plans that the commission has. No changes to the location or floor plans of anything at all there. I would also like to quickly bring on Greg, if you are here. Greg, are you here? Our landscape architect, Greg?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Greg, would you mind quickly addressing the privacy screening trees at the back? Like, what are our efforts to address it? Just very quickly, if you can talk about it.
The client is willing to further increase the initial size of the landscape screening, if that helps, so that the starting size, the starting height of the landscape screening is 8 feet tall. And they're willing to entertain other species such as Podocarpus or some sort of Pittosporum if that, makes it better for the neighbors.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you so much for calling that out. We drew some geometrical models from the line of sight from the balcony because we are at 16 feet height, and the fence line currently that is 6 feet can potentially be 8 feet. We believe that we do not need to have any species of privacy trees which goes to 30, 40 feet that has been discussed extensively today. We believe that trees of species which typically grow and stay contained within 8 to 10 feet height would suffice, and we're willing to work with the staff, with the landscape architect to choose specifically those species that would achieve that. And the last comment, I would like to invite actually Brian and Grace. Would you like to add anything quickly within the next 30 seconds or so?
No, just a quick comment. It seems like a lot of people have concerns about a white wall. We're actually not married to a white, or it just, this is kind of early in the stage. We aren't, set on that. So if white, looking at something white is an issue, we're open to changing that.
Thank you, Grace. With respect to the structure impacting neighboring homes is solar, basically the sunlight plane. We are happy to provide with the staff at any point of time during this process, provide a solar study to show that the structure does not impact the sunlight on neighboring properties, primarily because we have explicitly taken care of building the building envelope with extensive setbacks. And yeah, with that being said, once again, we have myself and my firm have enjoyed working with Brian and Kim, and we love this neighborhood. I myself live in Los Altos for last 10 plus years, and we're certainly hoping that the commission will consider our earnest efforts to provide a home for our clients in the best possible way, addressing all their needs while being respectful of all the neighbors' feedback that we have received along the process, iterated 4 times in the design, and conforming with all city code and guidelines. Thank you so much. I apologize for a little bit of confusion in our earnestness and eagerness to provide us how we would accommodate the COAs. In future, we would not submit our addressing of COAs early on for our future projects. But thank you once again for the opportunity.
Great, thank you. So we'll go ahead and close that part and open up for commission discussion. Who would like to begin?
Chair, if I may just interject real quick. I did hear some comments from the public with regards to making comments to the ADU and incorporation of the ADU in the design. So I don't know if that would be part of your discussion, but I would maybe tread lightly on that topic, because per state law, the property owner has the opportunity to put in an ADU up to 850 square feet. So I just want to make sure, if that's on anybody's minds, that that's not a reason why you deny the project, potentially deny the project, or continue it for any other reason with regards to the ADU.
Great, thank you, Steve. Okay, now to the commissioners. Sam, why don't you go ahead and start, please?
Yeah, this is has been a long, drawn-out section of this meeting, confusing, and particularly with not having the documents that we should have. I think that should be better handled in the future in terms of staff, that we have documents that are relevant, because many of the comments that we received, multiple emails, had to do perhaps with prior plans. So it just felt like a lot of time and not a lot of, I did not learn a lot from the process. So I think there's work to be done, and I would appreciate it when it comes back that it be what we're looking at as the current plans.
Great, thank you, Sam. Michael? Michael, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I forgot to unmute myself. It's very interesting that to hear all this neighbor, but I found that most of the neighbor expressed comments from the Avalon, North Avalon side instead of Sunkist. Usually, I would expect to hear more neighbors' input and comments from, the adjacent one, the one across and down the street. But of course, the rear neighbor is very critical too, because the rear neighbor is facing, the new house on the rear yards and the rear side. On the other hand, I also saw that the architect designers slides, the color rendering is very interesting. That it looks very different from the drawing. Of course, I know that there are several versions presented by that slides. But somehow for me, some of the image looks a lot better than the drawing I have here. So back onto the presented drawing design we have on hand. The house, I feel that it's too tall and it's too big. The plate heights and everything, and need more. Just a general comment. Okay, I'll talk about the positive side first. The positive side is that the use of different materials, the contemporary look, the simplicity. On the other hand, the plate heights, the massing, the second floor, they are all a visual impact to this neighborhood. And I understand that there are existing two-story house on the street on Sunkist, a few on the street. However, the immediate adjacent to the left and right, they are one story, and of course there's an ADU on the right hand side, but beyond the ADU is still another one story ranch house, which is have a standard traditional 8-foot. So just based on that, the 9'6" immediately is too tall to fit that on this site. So that's my general comments. And I believe there's still room to improve based on the design and based on the architect designer slides. Some of the slides I presented after the conditional approval, I found that it's a lot more horizontal look by tying the roof, especially on the left-hand side, the entry foyer's roof and with the garage, somehow the breaking of the roof and expose of the second floor wall on the left corner, that they all presented a bulkiness on this proposed design. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Michael. Frank?
Well, okay. So I think I expressed my frustration earlier. I still have it. I'm still perplexed by what happened tonight and the amount of time that we invested in this without the right set of drawings to do our homework on before we have the meeting. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I have a pretty busy life. When I spend time looking through materials to prepare for a meeting and it's not what gets discussed, that just doesn't work. I don't think it works for anyone on the commission. So, yeah, I mean, I could go on with what I would want to change in the plans. I think there's a lot of things that could be improved from what I saw, but what was talked about tonight is different from what I saw. So I recommend that we start over with this thing, quite honestly, when we get to that point of the discussion, that we get the updated plans, the city gets the updated plans, we get a chance to review those and then have a meeting about that. I don't know what we had a meeting about tonight, quite honestly.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Jude?
Sure, yeah.
Well, I think I'm pretty good at reading plans and I'm confused, as I think a few other people are. So this is very similar to another scenario, and my fellow commissioners might remember Ray versus Rilma, R-I-L-M-A. It's another combination of parallel streets, not too far from here. But anyhow, the most impacted people are on the adjacent street. And I agree with the neighbors on Avalon. I think there is tremendous impact, not necessarily due to the fault of the applicant, but just due to the nature of the configuration of the property. These very shallow lots are challenging. And I think the applicant needs to understand that, yes, they're entitled to do a two-story home, but it's going to have a tremendous impact, regardless of the numbers you're quoting. That neighbor is directly behind you, 25 feet off their fence. So I didn't see anything in the package when I got it that showed sections of what the view would be from the balcony towards the neighbor without screening. I did see some of that tonight, but getting back to having a complete and accurate package, and I think this is no fault of staff, I think the applicant needs to come back with a well thought out, well presented set of drawings that clearly communicate what's going on, including color renderings, which this package had none of, and just a more comprehensive package. Saying that, on top of that, I think there needs a lot of work. I think the applicant needs to go back to the design guidelines and look at what the suggestions are of incorporating a two-story home into a predominantly single-story neighborhood. I think those aren't being recognized, and I think there could be a tremendous amount of work done, still achieving the goal that the applicant wants, yet making something that's less impactful, not only on the street, but also on the neighborhood behind. I don't know how you give specific direction to anybody when the issues are so large and there's so many things that have been hashed out in the past. So it's unfortunate we're hearing this or seeing this for the first time, because I think if we had seen this maybe sooner, some of the frustration and iterations would have been avoided. So once again, you know, we don't see this often, but it's an unfortunate situation that I think we need to take a step back, and maybe there could be some offline advice, but I personally couldn't take any action on this item tonight other than a continuance with some direction of coming back to something that's more compatible with the neighborhood and the design guidelines and more sensitive to the neighbors behind on Avalon.
Great, thank you, Jude. I'm similar to everyone else here. You know, it's kind of a funky lot, super wide and somewhat narrow, or somewhat not as deep, especially pertaining to the properties behind. In addition, you know, I would like to see it come back, as everyone else appears to indicate, but also have information, more detailed landscape plan, the actual plants that you have in mind, with reference to maybe some of the neighborhood behind's desire not to have, you know, super large trees that block out their sunlight. My backyard faces kind of the same way, and it is glorious to be in your backyard and have natural light come in. And given the non-standardness of that little pocket of lots, that's really a premier requirement, I think, for that particular property. Maybe that incorporates that solar study or whatnot to see how the light and all that comes into bear. So my wish on this, again, I couldn't make a determination to support it. You know, we'd have so many conditions on it that it wouldn't necessarily work. So I too would also like to see it go back, be refreshed, looking at, you know, again, single story neighborhood, not an overlay zone, but predominantly single story, and trying to take in the uniqueness of the lot being not deep but long, in trying to reduce mass and bulk and, you know, sight lines and all of those other things. So that's kind of where I stand on this project. Do we have a motion for this particular project, with ideally as much specifics as we could get, given our conversations that we've had? Do we have an architect who might want to make a motion?
Michael's an architect.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, I could make a motion basically saying, you know, send this back for, you know, essentially review to be redone, taking into consideration specifics like, you know, plate heights and all of that for first floor, second floor. I mean, the property right now is just under 27 feet, and given the width of the property, you know, it seems a little bit excessive mass and bulk. But I think there's just so many different things that need to be done.
Well, I think to your point, we've heard tremendous amount of discussion about the impact on the neighbors, and primarily the two-story aspect of the wall at the rear. So at a minimum, there should be some direction for the applicant to diminish the impact of the two-story wall facing the rear, primarily Avalon neighbors. So that would be one thing. And this is not a motion, this is just discussion amongst ourselves. So, and then one, I would also suggest a relook at the design guidelines of how to best integrate a two-story home into a predominantly single-story neighborhood. I don't think those are being met at this time. And part of that is plate height, part of it is roof line, part of it is just site placement. You know, the front of the home seems to be flat. I think there could be some articulation done there. You know, I think the list is too numerous to list it out. And I think an offline conversation between staff and the applicant may be warranted, but that's the direction I would give them.
So question for staff, either Steve or Sean, is there a overreaching motion that could be put together asking staff to talk with the architect given the sort of general guidelines and get a little bit more specific on it? Because I think, you know, we're trying to be clearer than mud, but it just seems to be there's so many avenues for improvement, not necessarily to make all the neighbors happy and everything, but I think at the end of the day, it may seem like we're taking extra steps. I think the applicant will be much happier as well to get a finished product that fits in with the neighborhood, that meets all of their needs as well.
Yeah, so if I'm swimming through some of this muddiness, what I heard maybe most clearly from Commissioner Keurig was for potentially the applicant to go through the guidelines, and maybe they can respond to those guidelines, not word for word or point by point, but address with a response back to staff and the commission how their proposed design or the revision of their design is in, I would say, a certain level of conformance to those guidelines. The guidelines it's a guidelines document. It doesn't mean that there needs to be 100% consistency.
Correct.
But can more along the lines of conforming to what Commissioner Keurig described as where a one-story, how it fits into, how a proposed two-story fits in a predominantly one-story neighborhood. So I think the opportunity would be for the applicant to address those guidelines and bring it back to staff, and we can hash out some of those revisions and hopefully bring back a design that's more in conformance with the guidelines. And if there's any specifics that you think are, I know we're already you've been asked that, but that's also helpful for staff just to make sure there's certain specifics addressed.
You know, Chair Blockus, you know, and I didn't want to bring up specific houses, but since we're talking Avalon, one of my all-time favorite houses on the corner of Avalon and Almond. And it's a two-story home, and it's a wonderful home. It turns the corner. It's 2 stories. It's got a lot of the elements we look for in the design guidelines. It's completely different architectural style, but I know within the wherewithal of a good architect to take these challenges of program that the client's given them, look at the site, the constraints of the site, the direction, the spirit and the direction of the design guidelines, which have been well thought out over these past 30 years. Those guidelines are there for a reason. And I would hope they would take a hard look and try to meld that all in together into a beautiful design that not only looks great from the street, but also makes the neighbors behind happy. So that's my direction, and it's possible. And I think, but at this point, we can't give any specifics because I think there's just too much wrong. And I'm saying wrong in a sense that there's so much room for improvement that if they took a fresh look and really thought through, I think they could be successful. And it's pretty harsh to say that, but I think it's, in this case, it's warranted given what they're up against. And their problem is exacerbated by a very shallow lot, which is impactful on a lot of other people. So I feel very strongly about this, and I think they can do it. They just need to take a really hard look.
So Steve, can that be a motion? I mean, can that,
You're now
I
in
mean,
discussion, but I think the clarification that you provided, you know, you can continue it with that comments being made, and maybe that's it. Sean, do you have any other suggestions?
No, I mean, I think it's no different. What's going on here is no different than many times what we see at the, it's not similar, but we do have very general discussions regarding multifamily projects at council that incorporates a lot of broad discussion regarding a whole series of topics. And at the end of the process, the council provides direction to continue the item based on the overall discussion. So I think if you want to do that, I think that's fine with the additional comment that you would want them to go back and to relook at compliance with the residential design guidelines and to go through each of those elements consistent with your comments and input from staff. So a much broader, I think, motion would be fine.
okay. Jude, you want to put that motion forward?
Sure. I move that we continue this item.
Second.
Wait a second.
Hey, he's gotta-
Continue SC 21-0014, the new home at 283 Sunkist Lane, per the spirit of this discussion. Does that make sense?
Yes. Second.
And
Sorry, who was the second?
Sam.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's vote on this. Commissioner Kirk,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
myself. And so we've got
Sorry,
5.
we have one more, Frank.
Oh,
Bishop.
sorry, Frank. Frank, Commissioner Bishop.
I didn't think you wanted to hear any more from me.
Maybe subliminally I did. I don't know. But...
What's his vote?
So Frank, your vote? Frank?
Aye.
Aye, great. And Dave, aye as well. So 5-0, the vote to continue the project. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to our final project.
It's 9:42 on my clock. I don't know if you would like to take a break, bio break or anything, or just keep on going, but that's up to you.
I would suggest just keep on going. Does anyone need a 2-minute, 5-minute break?
No.
Keep on going. Yeah, keep on going.
Okay.
All right.
I'll have some coffee here and swig some coffee and keep moving.
Okay. So let's go on to item 5, the property at 1260 Payne Drive. And Steve, if you can go ahead and do that. And I'd like to thank those at 1260 Payne Drive for the long evening that we've have. Hopefully we'll be able to get through this for you. Go ahead and Steve.
Yeah, let me transition here. Just get my screen going. Sorry. Okay. Making sure I've got the right slideshow. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
This is a design review application for an addition to an existing 1-story residence. The project includes adding 248 square feet of living space and a new 454 square foot attached garage at the first story and a new 1,015 square foot second story. Sorry, my slide's not moving forward. There we go. The subject property is located on the north side of Payne Drive, east of Oakhurst Avenue. We define this neighborhood as a transitional character neighborhood, according to the city's residential design guidelines. Many of the lots on Payne Drive are narrow, deep lots that have retained their original smaller size residences. Many of these residences are single story, having low scale horizontal roof eaves and simple gable or hipped roofs and building forms. Some of these have attached garages and some of them have detached garages. And contrasting to that, there are also some larger lots that have either modified the residences or have new residences that are much larger and depart from the aesthetics and styles of the original residences. So that's how we determine this to be, I don't know if transitional is necessarily the right word, but it's kind of in between the diverse and the consistent. On the screen now, showing kind of the footprints of that existing neighborhood. The property to the left and the rear have been replaced with two-story residences that have slightly bulkier appearances. And again, to point out the fact that there are a variety of exterior building materials used throughout this neighborhood and different types of roofing materials, again, giving kind of this greater diversity of the visual variation between the residences, again, pointing to the fact that this is maybe a neighborhood that's a little bit in transition. Sorry, a lot of elements on this slide, but on the left-hand side is the site plan that is in your packet. The applicant proposes to demolish the detached garage, which is in the rear portion of the lot, and add 454 square feet of an attached garage at the front of the dwelling, and an additional 240 square feet of living space at the first story, while maintaining a majority of the existing structure. Again, they're going to be adding 1,015 square feet to the second story. In the middle is the development standards. Because most of the existing residence is going to be maintained, the majority of the first story setbacks are also going to be maintained. The side yard setbacks are being maintained. There's a slight reduction in the rear and front setbacks, but all of the proposed setbacks meet or exceed the required setbacks for the R110 zoning district. And then the diagram on the right shows that this lot is considered a narrow lot per the zoning code. And because of that, the side yard setbacks are 10% of the lot width, which results in a 5.25 foot side yard setback for the first story and a 12.75 foot setback for the second story. Just to note, this is a very deep lot, and so the proposed setback to the rear is 72 feet, which is nearly triple the required rear yard setback. This is the proposed front elevation. I just wanted to also give an example. In the upper left is the existing front elevation, and then the larger image is the proposed with the second story shown there. The roof forms of the proposed residence is a mix of 4 and 12 pitched hip roofs with front and rear facing gables at the first and second stories. The second story massing is centered over the first story. This proposal, as viewed from the front, has a good deal of articulation. both at the first story and the second story. It includes that box or bay window at the first story, a recessed building entry with a covered porch, and then the 3 separate wall plane elements at that second story. As noted in the agenda report, there is quite a bit of detailing, but the predominant exterior material is stucco, and there could be some addition of a brick veneer or a stone veneer or some stone accent to kind of break up the sort of monotonous of the stucco. And that's one of the recommendations or suggestions in the design review guidelines. On the right side elevation, the wall plate heights shown here are 9 feet at the first story and 8 feet at the second story, which is in keeping with the scale of that neighborhood. Along the right side at the second story, it includes 6 smaller windows with 4-foot 8-inch windowsill heights, which meet the direction from the Design Review Commission to reduce privacy impacts. At the left-hand side, again, there's kind of this replication of the 6 windows at the second story, and that's all I'll kind of note on that elevation. And then at the rear, there is a larger window placed at the second story with a lower window sill height, but again, this rear is looking into a very large rear yard that's over 70 feet in depth. This is the proposed landscape plan. There are 12 trees that are on the existing lot. There is an arborist report that was submitted that's in the agenda packet. It identifies the tree types and sizes. None of the trees are protected because they're all under 48 inches in circumference. It appears that 4 of the trees are going to be preserved, including a crepe myrtle in the front, which is just to the front of that box or bay window on the left-hand side. There's also 3 trees in the left sort of rear yard area that will be also preserved. The landscape plans propose 7 new trees in the front and side yard areas. Most of those trees are more ornamental in size, and so staff is recommending that the landscape plan provide a category 2 size tree, which is a more medium sized tree in the front yard to be more in keeping with that neighborhood, which has a lot of mature trees in the front yard. The landscaping plan is a bit sparse. There is not the privacy screening all along the side property lines, which the Design Review Commission might want to address. And staff had recommended a condition of approval to require the additional landscaping for privacy. And that's condition 2 in the agenda report. The applicant did reach out to the surrounding neighbors. Some of the neighbors did respond with written correspondences, and we did not receive any public correspondences after the public notice was sent out. With that, staff recommends the Design Review Commission approve this design review application subject to the findings and conditions contained in the agenda report. As shown on the screen in front of you are 3 conditions which we provided in that agenda report, which we're recommending for inclusion in your approval. That includes my presentation. I can answer any questions that you might have, and that's it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Steve. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
No.
Frank?
No.
Michael, no. Jude, anything?
No.
Yeah, I'm good as well. So why don't we go ahead and go to the applicant and or their architect for their presentation?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Yes, hello. My name is Ronald Huber. I'm the architect working with the people that are doing this project. And we would like to address some of the comments that were made or perhaps addressed during the presentation, among which was the use of materials and specifically the use of stucco. That was actually a preference that was indicated to us by the client. So we pursued that not as a choice specifically or trying to match the neighborhood, but just sort of as a as a wish list. Nevertheless, when you look at the massive of the massing of the building, you realize that because of the different planes that there are, it does not come out at you as a big white mass, but actually it steps back into different planes. And given the components, the decorative components that we've added to it, we think that that sort of adds to the breaking of the overall mass of the building. If possible, I would like to share and show you the model of the building which was the original design and which has not changed that much from what we presented to the commission or to the city, just to show we feel it actually shows better the massing of the building. So if I may share the screen, I guess I can.
You should have a button at the bottom to share.
I do, but I don't see the desktops. I see one, I see two, perhaps there now. Share screen.
Somebody's starting to share.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, unfortunately, this is not what I intended to show. I think one of my partners is bringing up here something. Well, okay, in any case, what we see here is the massing of the building on the left-hand side, that it sort of recesses back. So therefore, it's broken down into smaller components that don't give that massive feeling of it. And this is, of course, the garage, the new garage. The entrance is also has an open space in it, so it's not so blocked, so square. And the other components that are sort of adding to the presentation are the windows and the shapes there, and some of the other elements. Ashu, could you let me share my screen, please? Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have access to sharing the screen for some reason. Is there anybody that can allow me to do that?
You might have had to install the software. Is it in the design plans? I can share the design.
No, it's not actually. It was a working model that would allow us to move it around. So instead of a static image. Okay, well, in any case, it's perhaps, just a second, perhaps I'm going here through something that might allow me to do that. Speech microphone.
Yeah, no, sometimes if you're working on a Mac, you might have to, it might require you to log out and log back in, which I don't know if you really want to do at this point, so.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. I think that we have enough material to show what, and I'll try to explain the point. I'll give this one up, and that was the intention. In any case, that's what we wanted to present tonight.
Okay, is the owner there and want to say anything or no?
Yeah, this is Bhargav and Lakshmi. We are the owners at 1260.
Okay.
To kind of go back to the style, we were looking at more of a Spanish revival with the tile roof and accents which break up the stucco color with darker frames. That's the style that we were really looking for. In terms of the changes, we're a family of 4. The existing house is too small for us. We have 2 small kids, so we really wanted to maximize the backyard space so that they have space to kind of play. And that's kind of the process around going up, going out. And I really want to thank the commission. I know it's been a long night. I appreciate the patience of going through our project tonight.
Well, thank you for coming in last here and having to sit through for a couple hours. So we appreciate your patience. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant or the architect?
None for Sam.
Okay. Michael?
Yeah, I do have some question for the architect or designer.
Okay.
Basically about the details and the materials. I don't see too much of I saw some very limited material on some page on A1.10 listed the roof tile stucco finish and the louver. So I want to see, or at least hear from the designer architect about such as garage doors, window types or materials. I saw some of the window sill and casing, what type of casing. I saw some kind of note saying some vinyl. So, and then the roof tile is kind of generic color. Is it gonna be uniform color like this, or it's gonna be mixed color? So can the applicant or the designer clarify on that part?
Sure. The materials that are being used, in a sense, what we're trying to achieve here is sort of a revival of a Spanish style, or perhaps New Mexico. And so therefore, if you try to do that, you're going to have to sort of pick up a certain palette of colors and materials to be within that style. Like for instance, in this case, in that style, the use of stone is not that common. We're doing it just at the base of the building and at the entrance, but it's not usually attached to the wall. So to be sort of honest with this style, you know, the tile and the stucco, the white stucco on the wood material of the doors and the frames, or at least the resemblance of wood in some colors, even though they might be painted white, is the vocabulary of that style precisely. Now, in terms of the tile, there's many options that we can use. Ideally, would be more of a worn down type of tile rather than a brand new one coming out of the factory. So, you know, to sort of go back into the revival of the style. And there would definitely be different coloring, something like that, exactly what we're looking at, and that would provide more interest to the overall composition. The wood, we're also using some decorative components, beams coming out, and those would probably would be wood, real wood, and stained, so it looks like such. The other components are basically decorative, such as the support on the box window and the gables. But that's pretty much standard. They could actually be part of the stucco also and painted in different color.
Okay, can you describe two more items? Garage door, I see the garage door shown on the front elevation. Are those, I mean, we don't know if it's panel, is it with glass, it doesn't have any notes. And then the second one is the, I mentioned it when about the window type and the casing, the trim and the sill. Because I saw some notes on your drawing say vinyl sill. I don't know what's vinyl sill.
No, that's an error actually. What it refers to is the window is vinyl, the construction by itself, but that could be different colors also. It doesn't have to be, you know, the typical white old vinyl type. And then regarding the sill that you're looking at, that is part of the stucco, not part of the window.
Okay, all right. What about the garage door?
The garage door, yes, it is panels, and it is pretty much what is shown there. It becomes sort of a standard type of door, and probably we would elaborate a little further on that one specifically. Usually we leave that stage to further into the construction documents where we sort of sit down with the client and then pick up a specific model. And so we have some of their input of what they specifically would want to see there. But there's some room for a variable to be included there.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
This is the owner. On the garage door, since the styling we're going for is more of a Spanish revival style, it'll probably be a slightly darker wood paneled door as opposed to a modern glass type door.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is that I try to make sure all this is, because just some graphic without notes or without picture, on the material list or on the drawing, that leave a lot of open end to the final decision or the final product to be used. Okay, and I just noticed that on the can we go back to the front elevation? Yeah. I just noticed because the drawing we have is too small, but now it's on the screen. I noticed there's a small square or rectangular on the second floor arch window. Is that a window or louver?
It's a louver.
Oh, okay. But you listed as W8.
Because so it goes in the schedule, but as such, it is a louver.
Okay.
Oh, perhaps
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. There's a lot of open-end items on the details and the material. Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Frank, any questions?
Probably, but so looking at the drawings, this elevation question, like in some of the line drawings, I see maybe one step, and then I look at some of these, I don't know, the three-dimensional renderings at the end, there's 3-4 steps coming in and out of the building, not necessarily the same front to back. So question there, what is that? And then I'll come back to Michael's question. Having just built a house here, actually it's not quite done, the window schedules, the lead times on a lot of this stuff is just incredible. So having specifically what type of window, the manufacturer and so forth, and the sizes also differ greatly between the manufacturers. I would think that this would be a lot more specific at this point in time when we see it than what we're looking at here, quite honestly. Those details really matter if you want to try to get this house done in some reasonable amount of time, in my experience anyway.
We tend to agree with you, and by all means, the lead times are a problem, and actually more information, more precise, would have been better to have at this time for you to analyze the project better. It's something we're certainly going to be working on and be able to provide that information as soon as possible.
It's just hard for us. It's hard for me personally to say, yeah, I approve that when we don't really have the details in front of us as to what it is you're going to build. So I don't know. Maybe I just approach things differently than most. But back to my question on the elevation. Do you see when you come down to these images at the bottom, you've got 1, 2, 3 steps off your back decks, and I don't see any steps at all going into the front of the building. Yet you show 2 steps, and I think in the line drawings. No? It's awful hard. It's kind of hard for me to read also.
The steps are further in when you walk into the foyer, that exterior foyer.
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to tell, right?
Right. That's what I wanted to show the model. Unfortunately, I was not able to do that because
but I think the model you were going to show isn't exactly where you guys are in the design. It was something that was done earlier. And that was the problem we had with the long discussion we had here tonight. I think what we're looking for is exactness here. So we actually know what it is that will be built, if that makes any sense.
Right. No,
anyway,
I understand, of course.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's all I have.
Sure.
Jude, any questions?
I hate to bring up a minor point, and this gets back to the drawings. Kind of losing my voice. I look at sorry. lost my sheet. I guess back to the architect. I look at A 1.1, your proposed site plan. I see the front porch being in line with the living room. I look at A 1.6. I see a column now in line with the garage. Yet when I look to the right, I see a roof line that's in line with the living room. And then when I look at the roof plan on A 1.8, I see a roof line that comes out in line with the garage. So I see multiple things going on here that are inconsistent. And I'm not even looking at the renderings that Frank was talking about. So can you clarify what exactly is going on there?
Sure. I can see the contradiction, and you're absolutely right. Those in A 1.6, those roof lines are not matching, while in A 1.8 they do. The structure itself is actually what is shown on A 1.8. They do line up, though the foyer and the garage line, roof lines, they do line up. Not the one on the box window, that one is recessed. So therefore in 1.6, the foyer entrance is too short. It should line up with the garage roof. We'll make that correction. We apologize for that. It was lack of quality control on our part, so we'll make that correction.
And while we're on that item, so that is my sole comment on the aesthetics of this. I think the front gable for the front porch should be proud of the garage. I think right now it's very convoluted how the roof of the garage overlaps the arch of the entry. So I would suggest you pull the porch forward a couple feet and actually get rid of that awkward step and whatever. So extend the front porch out in front of the archway.
We can.
I would also thicken the column itself to make that element more substantial. It's a minor change, but you know, we're here to take a nice project and make it just a little better. And I think if you make that change, aesthetically, it'll be a little bit more pleasing, and you'll get a more useful front porch, and you'll eliminate some discrepancies.
We really like that idea, and we actually did consider it. Unfortunately, we are at the setback line. That's why we're not able to break those two planes, and there's really very little space left between that and the back wall. So, but we'll take into consideration your comments, which I think would certainly help us to improve the design.
Why can't you move the house back a foot or two? You have an exceptionally deep lot with 73-foot rear setback. Why can't you move the house back?
Well, we are actually, remember, it's an existing house, which we are renovating. So we are retaining most of the existing walls. And the given is the 20-foot depth of the garage. So that sets that. Then the setback from the front yard, placing where the foyer wall is. There's a lot of contradictions that we did work out, but I think that the point is, how can we break that front facade into two different volumes, and so they read as you know, as an entrance perhaps more important than the wall of the garage. And I think that's,
I think you can do something with the eave line of the garage,
right,
or something to create a break in the roof line. So once again, it's something that would improve that for you know, from the street. So I encourage you to flush that out a little more.
Okay, by all means. We'll look into that.
Any other questions, Jude?
No.
Okay, and I don't have any myself. Why don't we go ahead and have or open it up to public comment at this point? Steve, do we have anybody?
Again, if you have a public comment, you can raise your hand at this time. If you can't raise your hand, you can also unmute yourself at this time. I actually, I think all the people now are just the applicant for this, so I don't think I see any additional members of the public, so.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close it off and have our discussion about this particular project. Who would like to start?
You go, David. I can't hear you.
Yeah, no, I was asking who would like to start on comments on the particular project.
I have no comments other than what I've just said about.
Okay. Sam, any comments?
No comments. I like the project.
Okay. Michael?
You're muted, Commissioner Ma.
Sorry. Yeah, I think generally the direction of the design, I think overall, I'm okay with the design. However, that leave a lot of the details and material open, you know, and then another item like the inconsistency on the front area between the elevation and different floor plan and side plan. So I don't know. I mean, how are we gonna tighten this up and make sure that he's using the good and right material, appropriate material, and you know, is committed to it. You know, for example, the roof tile. I hate. I mean, it's a you know, Spanish style. Oftentimes we see a nice Spanish style and with a nice material mix blends of roofing tiles. But I hate it when I see an orange or all red tile popping on a new house, generic. That's very ugly. It looks like a track home in, you know, somewhere else. So that's why I want to make sure. And then the you know, some of the detail, like the front column, kind of tied to Jude's comment. The front column proportion looks too thin, you know, and then kind of either tie in or separate. I don't know what's going on. The garage door, all that stuff. So I'm not sure how. I mean, I'm willing to support it to move on, but how we gonna? This is so many stuff. How we gonna make sure that he can follow that or committed to all the detail without, you know, I mean, all this open end stuff. That's my question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frank, any comments?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yep.
No, just what I said before. I mean, you know, the one, it was in the narrative somewhere that it said vinyl windows. I mean, very few people are using vinyl windows on expensive homes in Los Altos. So it's the details, right? We see some of these projects that come in front of us that there's a palette of all the colors. There's a listing of the manufacturers of what you know, what components are actually going to be used. And a lot of us that have done this type of work for a long time really understand the different products that are out there and what they really look like. This to me, it's like there just isn't enough detail for me. So I've seen that the project itself is like, okay. I mean, I don't have some of the details discussed, I think certainly could be improved. You know, Michael talking about the orange tile, I know exactly what he's talking about there. And I wouldn't want to see the owner end up with something that doesn't look as good as it could, basically. And I think that's the value that this team actually brings to these reviews. So it's hard for me at this point. I've just had a hard evening, I think, here tonight. It's one of those things. I don't know, but anyway, those are my thoughts.
Great, thank you, Frank. And I would agree with you. I think we're missing a little bit. I think it'd be cleaned up. My vote, if any, would be to send it back to do these, you know, and I think the style and all that's fine. I think just some tweaking to get it just right would make sense. And I think there's probably, I don't know if we can send it back, with the conditions that we have and a couple other conditions and finalize it, or actually send it back and have them come back in 2 weeks to a month and have those things figured out.
Chair Block, I want to add a few more items if we're going to send it back. For example, I mentioned about that the little window on top of the arch window, that kind of little detail, and what kind of material is the shutter, decorative shutter, what kind of material, and that decorative round elements above the arch foyer entryway, what kind of material? Is it stucco? Is it precast? The cobbles, happen on certain area above the garage along the eave line, and then also on the left top on the second floor. And then the rest is missing. So all this inconsistency of the details and elements. Yeah.
Well, I think we also have a couple of items, conditions for approval that they could look at and address as part of having it being sent back. Then they can come back with a total picture. And then hopefully at that point, it's just, yeah, let's go with it. Or there might be a small item here or there that could be part of a condition for approval, that it would be approved next time.
Chair Blockus.
Yes.
I just want to clarify one thing. I'm looking at A1.1, and the front setback dimension to the garage reads as 26 feet, 8.5 inches. The required front setback is 25.
25.
So I think the architect designer has the ability to do some of the things we're suggesting. So given what I've heard, I can make a motion that, and I don't know whether Michael wants to make it or I'll make it, but move this along. I move that we continue item number SC 21-0024 to the first available date to come back with updated and consistent plans that show the front entry moving forward and being widened. Okay, the roof material being specified to show a multi-toned or textured roof tile that is not monochromatic, to specify a specific door style and material and finish, and to clarify any window or louvered vent detail. What's windows, what's vents, and what is the material. And I don't need to know the manufacturer, but if they're call out painted wood windows, that would be good for me. I'll let them figure out how to order those windows on time.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Sean, or Steve, did you get who the second was?
Sam.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll give it to Sam. We'll go ahead and vote. Let's go, Frank.
Yes. Aye.
Okay, Sam.
Aye.
Jude.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
And David, aye. So 5-0 to continue with the conditions suggested by Jude. That leaves us now to any commissioner reports or comments.
I have a quick one.
Yep.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sam.
So according to the town crier, our first SB9 is 41 Marvin. So just confirming that, do I get a nod from Steve and Sean? Is that?
Yes, it is. It's my project. I was assigned the first SB9. Yes, it's yes, it's coming as an SB9. It's currently incomplete.
So does that mean it's approved, or is that a different term? Complete meaning it's
incomplete. It's incomplete. Yes.
Incomplete.
once they address the objective standards that need to be addressed in the ordinance and address all of the submittal requirements, then staff will make a determination on whether to approve it. But until the project's deemed complete, everything is conceptual or preliminary, and we won't provide a determination until completeness is determined.
So is there any kind of a timeline under SB 9 where the client is required to return completeness?
No, I mean, unlike the design review guidelines or design review ordinance that specifies that you have a 6-month period before and then after the application expires, the ordinance does not include an expiration period for the project. That could always come, as you're aware, they develop these plans or this ordinance in December. They do plan to return to update the SB 9 ordinance regulation. So we'll see if that is part of a further update to the ordinance. Right now, it is not.
Okay, and so far, that's the only one so far.
I believe a second one was submitted for 108 Coronado, and I don't think it's been assigned to anyone yet.
Thank you.
Michael, you had
Yeah, I just have a quick question for the staff. I was at 48. When I visited the property at 48 Paso Robles a few days ago. I thought that there's no one in the house, so I just tried to go into the backyard. So the owner called me in surprise and said, "Who are you? Why are you here?" So I say, "I'm the commissioner." And so they say, "Oh, I didn't know you are gonna be here." And I said, "We need to be here and look at the property." So and he said, "I didn't know that." So it seems like he had no clue. So I'm not sure if the architect or he's been notified. The architect did not tell him. So I just want to see the city's staff procedure about notifying or make sure that the owner is aware of our access.
Yes, we advise the applicants or architects in advance. We don't. So staff typically relies upon the applicant to notify the homeowners in advance. We don't typically reach out to the homeowners to advise them in advance. In addition, we provide them, the applicants or the owners have to go in and publish the site, and they're aware also by the applicant or the architect that they're supposed to be visiting. But we can reiterate again more vehemently in our emails to them prior to the noticing that they have to provide access to you. So we can do that.
Yeah, I think there's opportunity to improve that. And I think in the past that at least I have reached out to commissioners to give you a phone number or an email address to reach out. And the desire is to try to reach out to the applicant to just let them know maybe there's a window of time that you might be visiting so they're not surprised. And I'm telling the applicants that the commissioners do not want any communication while they're there, and to be respectful of that. So I think we do need to standardize that process so we're all on the same page. So we could send you maybe that Sean, as acting as a liaison, can help just assemble all that into one maybe email that gets to you, so you have a list of contacts, and when you go to the sites, just reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm going to be there." Because also with like keeping gates unlocked and stuff for a week, it's maybe a little bit unreasonable for some people with security concerns or.
Well, and I also suggest to remind them to make it safe and accessible. This past one on Payne had 2 cars in the driveway. I knocked 3 times, rang the doorbell, no one came. So I went around. The gate on the left-hand side is kind of falling apart or a little bit janky. Then there's another gate, a chain link fence with a doghouse sitting, a large doghouse sitting on the left-hand side. So I'm like, am I walking into Cujo's backyard?
Cujo is
it
about
safe?
that big.
Yeah, we do need to improve on the process. And just curiosity, do the commissioners, do you still have, I think we issued some
business cards.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, just making
I
sure.
always leave one if there's no one there, I'd stick it kind of in the door somehow, along with Safeway delivery cards.
And could we confirm maybe, generally, do you go to the sites during the work hours, like 8 to 5, or do you go on weekends? Okay. So in the past, what we've tried to do is recommend that homeowners, if they can, during certain days and during certain time periods, that they keep their animals or pets in the backyards inside for those time periods, so that we have some safety for the commissioners, and we can try to work on getting that to the applicants so that they're aware that for that certain time period between Thursday and the meeting date, they need to keep their animals in during business hours, even on weekends. And that's just part of the process if they're submitting a design review application.
Yeah.
Good.
I think maybe just reaching out and telling somebody, hey, I'm going to be there. Also, just COVID has really kind of thrown everything a loop for people being at home and all that stuff. So it's, I guess, people trying to be respectful and all that. So, okay. We'll
right. Any other comments? Potential future agenda items?
Yeah.
I know we have we figured out the time frame?
Pull the list up, but I did send out an email to all commissioners with some pending dates. There's 4 of them. There was a poll that was sent out, and I got responses from most, not Frank Bishop, Jude did not respond, and that's it. Yeah, so Frank and Jude, if you can check your emails, and there should be a link for a poll for four meeting dates. So it's going to be a joint Design Review Commission, Planning Commission meeting. We're scheduling, or tentatively scheduling, for 6 p.m. on March 16th, which is a Design Review Commission date. Generally speaking, for study sessions, we prefer to schedule those at 6 o'clock before the regular meeting. And this is going to be an opportunity for the 2 commissions to talk about what you just brought up, which is SB 9 applications, to give some more feedback to city staff and the council on objective design standards for SB 9. This was a directive by the city council when they approved, through a resolution, they approved objective design standards, which I know some of you provided some input on. So they, in that adoption of the design standards, they said for this joint meeting to occur, and then I believe to come back to the council, I think they said a May timeframe. So whether or not we have 1 or more meetings to the commissions, but again, we'll have to figure out if a quorum is met for both commissions, and I'll send out a confirmation. But so far, I'm looking at the screen right now, and I'm trying to figure out how the poll doesn't give me a summary across the line. But March 16th, 6 p.m., pencil that in, pencil in all the other dates in too, but I'll come. Thanks.
Yeah, so Steve and Sean and Michael, the first week in April, I will be gone. So the Wednesday, April 6th, I will not be here.
Yeah, I see
so
that.
Michael, you'll get to run that one.
So also, Sean, I think I told you I'm gone for the month of March.
Oh. Oh yeah, I see. So Sam, Frank, and Jude all have not responded to this poll. So
I didn't see any poll. I got an email with the
I can follow up with you, but if you're out March, we just need to have 3 members for a quorum for the Design Review Commission. So we'll.
So, Steve, what I got from you was this. I see where I obviously didn't read it carefully. Now that I see it and read it carefully, it talks about a pole. I will complete that.
Okay. Yeah, there's only like there's now 12. There's 5 + 7. There's 12 people over 4 meeting dates, and it's a Microsoft Outlook kind of.
Okay.
So it was just easy to throw it up there and manage it for me. So, thank you.
Any other agenda items?
I hate to bring this up, but and this has been hashed so many times now, but tonight we saw, I'm not going to talk about tonight, but we saw an instance where an ADU is adding to the bulk and mass of a structure. Is there anything going forward that we can recommend to be included in the ADU ordinance that doesn't deny the right to build an ADU, but if it is attached to the main residence, it can't increase the bulk and mass of a house? Meaning that it would be a 1-story appendage to the house that does not increase the bulk and mass of the house. Is that possible?
Is that possible?
That's a challenging question. And that's where you kind of have to tiptoe around that. And there is very little subjectivity that we can apply to ADUs per state law. And I understand what you're saying, that I think what we have said in the past, and I know this is not what you're asking specifically, but if it's a 2nd-story ADU, then we've said, well, it's a conversion of a 2nd-story. We have more discretion on that, which is somewhat consistent with state law that says you have up to a 16-foot ADU and 850 square feet. At least that's what the city has interpreted. So, yeah, I think that might be a question to further discuss with the city attorney, but that's all I can really say.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I see in other cities that I work in, and Michael probably knows this, that if you want to build more than 800 feet, then they don't allow you to. They don't allow you to go to the 4-foot number. They said they incentivize you to, abide by the rules, like the 10 or the 12-foot setback, to get your extra 400 feet.
Above
they penalize you.
50 square feet.
Yeah. Well, in most cities it's 800. I don't know where the 850 is coming from. It's all over the map. 850.
Well, there's conflicts of state law, so we took the more flexible of saying 850 because there's portions of the law that says 850. But yeah, up to the 800 or 850, there's less discretion, and so if a city, I would just say if a city is pressuring you for anything under that, then they would be creating a bullseye on their back from HCD at that point, because it just takes a call, and yeah, we just don't necessarily want that right now.
Yeah.
But that's something potentially to address with the city attorney, as far as how do we parse out these issues when you have a design review application coming before you and the ADU at the same time. So, yeah.
Will that be in the meeting on whatever the date is?
Sorry, what was that?
Will that be potentially part of the conversation of this upcoming meeting at 6 o'clock?
Not specifically, because what we're addressing is SB 9, which is similar but different. It's another layer that the state has handed us. So it's furthering the objective standards. I know there was a little bit of unfinished business that was discussed at council, but may have not been adopted as part of their objective standards in the resolution. So I know there's a list of some things that the council would like further development of. There could be other issues that the commission, either commission would bring forward. We don't have that many examples at this point. So I think the idea was to go back, the council thought, okay, well, when we go back in May to the council, we might have some examples to address, but we don't have that many at this point. We have one residential proposal, and the second one, which came in yesterday, is a urban lot split. So I don't believe, I actually haven't looked at it too carefully, but I don't believe they're proposing residences at this time. They're just proposing the lot split. I could be wrong.
Steve, what I would say is just discussion about SB9 a little bit. One of the things that I didn't notice in the first project with the 41 Marvin is that when you're looking at AD regulations that are attached to the house, and you have to follow the daylight plane for the main house. However, it's referencing, the ADU is referencing you back to the R110 district. However, this is an SB9 project, which has a different daylight plane standard. So I was referencing them back to the SB9 daylight plane standards, which is probably more constraining, but they were very, and they agree, they stated, this is not a design review ADU or design review R110 project. This is an SB9 project. And they agreed to comply with the SB9 daylight plane for the ADU. So we're able to get that constrained for 41 Marvin. However, there is a lack of clarity in regards to that. There's the ADU regulations either need to be updated to reflect that the daylight plane applies for SB9 projects. They have to follow the SB9 daylight plane standards. Right now, that's not clear. So that's causing, we have to interpret that, and it's reasonable, and the applicant agreed to that, but there may be applicants that may not agree to it, and that needs to be resolved in a future.
I'm saying this jokingly. We only have 6 different daylight plane.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, so it's, I think we probably just need to say, what are we trying to do with the daylight plane, and what are we trying to protect with it, and just establish one that kind of fits, that's more inclusive to address daylight plane issues. But we'll defer to that meeting and maybe bring that up for discussion.
Okay. So we good to go ahead and adjourn, or should we continue our conversation?
It's almost 11.
I need to take a little bit of a nap.
I'm gonna go ahead. Frank's probably gone. Hey, thank you all.
Okay.
It's been a long night. I know we're
All right.
tired,
Good evening.
but appreciate
Good night.
it.
Bye, you guys.
Good night, everybody. We're adjourned.
Okay.
Bye.
10:42
Bye.
p.m. Thank you.